Hello and welcome to the Cinematronix podcast, which I have been sadly absent for quite a while because I've been busy with stuff and doing Do You Expect Us to Talk? And speaking of Do You Expect Us to Talk, I have with me my fellow co-host from that particular podcast, Mr. David Bond.
Good evening, folks.
And so this is kind of like I should say a rebooting of my podcast, kind of. We'll see how this goes. Just to let you know, simply, I'm just gonna strip everything down, and I'm just gonna grab random people off the internet, and
We're gonna podcast naked.
Yes, we're gonna podcast naked, and well, essentially, it's just gonna be a very stripped down, informal chat centered around movies. There's no initial reviews, no news segments, none of that. It's literally just grab fellow film fans and just say, "Hey, let's talk," and we're just gonna basically chat shit. Now it will be predominantly movie focused, but it may lead on tangents elsewhere. But that's the nature of chat, I guess. Dave, welcome to the first of these new series of episodes.
Yeah, episode 12 in reality.
Yeah, episode 12 in reality.
First of this new format, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm not saying definitely not going to do reviews. I think it might just depend on what happens, but to kind of keep the show moving forward, it's just I think it's just figuring something like a format that suits me. I think. I mean, well, I don't know what you think.
Well, I think by suits you mean one you don't have to do any work for.
Well, that is true. That is very true. But
because joking aside, you're studying full time, you're working part time, and aside from that, you do have prep for Do You Expect Us to Talk, because they require you to watch the film, which is the easy bit, but quite often more than just me. The others, you and Becca, have tended to watch special features and bits and pieces as well.
Yeah.
And there's only so much time available if you want to do anything else, particularly by the time you lose an evening every couple of weeks on things like Smorgasbord.
Yes. Other podcasts I do tend to guest on as well. Do have an instinct. So yeah, it's a bit of a time, but also I do think it's a little bit of a. I do tend to draw myself to podcasts which kind of just doesn't give a shit about format and just kind of like let the conversation just roll. And I think I tend to kind of get drawn.
I do find it difficult when I go on podcasts, and I make no criticism of the people that do this, by the way, because it's your podcast and I'm happy to guest. But podcasts where you get an email an hour or two before that says we'll do this, then we'll do that, then we'll move on to this, and don't forget to say that. The end result's normally really good, but it's not really me.
Yeah. I mean, I say I'm just winging this episode. So, listeners, because it is literally it's almost as if me and Dave or me and whoever have literally just gone down the pub, have a pint, have a drink or whatever it is, and just almost talking pretty much.
You just spend less time in the toilet than I do at the
average
pub visit.
True, very true.
Oh, I need to go again. I'll see you in a minute.
So, Dave, as the first guy, my first question is, what drawn you to the world of podcasting? I know there's probably a bit of story about how you got to podcasting with me, with Do You Expect to Talk. But
let's think how it started.
But were you always wanting to do podcasts before? Am I right, or was it something?
Yeah, there was a. This won't necessarily be obvious to listeners, but my self-confidence wasn't amazing. I really thought, what with the West Country accent and everything else, I just thought, well, what have I actually really got to offer? And I'd never invested in proper equipment or anything like that. But in terms of podcasting with me, in terms of what brought me to listening to them, first of all, I think it probably started with Kermode and Mayer. And then it moved on to a sort of little network called Simply Syndicated that have I don't listen to them anymore. No offense if you're listening to us, by the way.
I've never heard them.
You did. But they had a series of podcasts on lots of different topics. One was Star Trek. One was, I think it was called something like Movies You Should See or something like that. And they just had various ones that I kind of enjoyed. And then around the time Star Trek was rebooted in 2009, I went looking, because I was quite excited about a new Star Trek film. So I went looking for Star Trek podcasts. and happened to find Now Playing. And at that point, they had literally just reviewed the motion picture. The motion picture was out. And at the end of that, they announced, the next week would be The Wrath of Khan. Now, that was, I think, Star Trek 2009 was released in the May. They released every film leading up to that. It was the 11th film, which tells me it was somewhere around March, maybe very late February. I found them. So I've listened to them ever since. And about a year later, it was called Digital Gonzo at the time, a guy called Alex Shaw. You'll find him under @NewCentury Shaw. I think he's still called that on Twitter.
Lots of plugs going on here already. Jesus.
He's gone through a couple of different formats since then. It's currently called School of Movies, which is my least favourite of any of the names he's had. But I would say those two things are the biggest
School
influence
Rock,
on
isn't
me.
it?
Well, yeah, it's just the thing is, I heard him explain it once. And it was very much like we are a school, we're in a school. Whereas when you actually see a podcast called School of Movies, there's something very conceited about the name without any context. But they both have less so Now Playing because they, from my perspective, actually over edit, but they have a really good rapport. I think that there's no accident we're a 3 on the other podcast and they're a 3. And I just thought I probably do have something to offer here. That said, I still sort of wussed out of doing it. I was invited on a couple and it never happened. And then I happened to see you on Twitter one night. We were already friends on there and chatted now and again, but you were looking for a Bond co-host.
Yeah, it was essentially, I had the idea. Spectre was coming up. Spectre was coming out that year, and I had a crazy idea of and this was actually originally for Cinematronix as well. I can't quite remember whether I rebooted it or not by that point. I don't know if it was the Bass Nerds yet. I reckon it was probably Cinematronix. And I was just, I kind of want to do like a series where I just review all the Bond films, kind of like now playing, but not quite in the same edited level, because that's one of the things I do find about Now Playing. It is very, very highly edited, and while I do find it's quite entertaining podcast to listen to at times, it is very much, you can just clearly tell it's so precise, and you just like,
there's no ums and ahs. I mean, I know from things Arnie has said on the show, he not only does he frown upon them, but they all get taken out.
Yeah.
Now I take out a few when I edit our show, because
I must admit, like, and maybe I've improved on this since, but I've always hated myself for going,
I think it's something you try to cut back on, but at the same time, you can't cut out every sort of quirk of speech.
You can't, no. I mean, it sounds like it's one of those things where when you come to edit a podcast, you do sort of like, oh god, I sounded absolutely fucking dreadful. And you listen back to it, it's like, I don't sound that bad actually. There've been some moments where I've been thinking to myself as I'm saying something, and I'm thinking, you're talking absolute shit here, Chris. Nothing you're saying, and I listen back to it, dreading that one bit, and I go like, that doesn't sound too bad. Yeah, you're being a bit overcritical there.
The one thing I will say is, if you do a lot of podcasting, because I know most people respond to hearing their own voice the way most people with low confidence reply to seeing video or a picture of themselves. If you podcast a lot, you get totally used to hearing your own voice.
Yeah, I know.
You do. Oh yeah, I know that sounds obvious, but it really is true.
It is.
And the thing is, your voice sounds different in your own head than it does when you hear like a recording of it. That's less so if you podcast, because your brain sort of melts the two a little bit, and you get totally used to hearing it. But yeah, you were on Twitter one night talking about wanting more hosts to join you and Becca.
Yeah.
And you were still coming up with all these torturous names around martinis and all that for the show. And I just looked at it and I went, and the name was mine, because I just looked at it and went, why don't you just call it Do You Expect Us to Talk? Which is the only inspired moment I've had in a year and a half podcasting on that show. But yeah, you were coming up with all these tortured names, and I just thought, if I don't do it now, I've got a proper rig now, I've got it all set up, I've got a microphone, on the off chance I do this, although I was in a distance relationship at the time, so I was using Skype quite a lot. But I just thought, if I don't do it now, I'll never do it. And like I chatted to you a lot. I knew you'd be like someone fairly easy to podcast with. I knew that, like,
Had you
you know,
listen?
for example, I wouldn't want my debut to be now playing.
Yeah.
No, not like that. Do it like this. You know what I mean? And don't know. And you said 3 times there, and you repeated yourself.
In other words, like he's amateur enough; he'll be fine to
I
start
just thought,
with.
well, yeah, okay. And he's got a different silly accent to me. So no, I just thought that'll be fine. And I just thought, well, it's Bond. I'm on home territory there.
Yeah,
Because, you know, name coincidence aside, it's the one series I probably know most about.
yeah,
So
yeah. I mean,
yeah,
it's my obviously my obviously it's my favorite franchise, so it's one of the things why I wanted to actually do. I know I always kind of like the idea of journeying through a film series, or like or kind of what's more interesting to me is journeying through a film director's catalogue. You know, starting from the beginning and seeing how he's progressed or where he's deteriorated, and seeing like how that journey. You know, I'm still interested in doing that because I think sometimes you also miss films as well. It gives you a good excuse to actually see those films that you feel like as a film fan you probably should have seen by now, and you.
absolutely.
And you kind of, it gives you a good excuse. That's what I kind of like about doing podcasts sometimes. And you have to, oh shit, no, I have to actually watch this. So yeah, so that's how we met. So you've always kind of like wanted to work like
Yeah, and I was always taken with the retrospective, because now playing for a long time
yeah.
had been either my favourite or amongst my favourites. Although over time we've become very, very different from them. But I would say at the
Where
start
yeah,
I was
way too
kind of
many
an
rude
attempt.
jokes and
Yeah, but to start with, I think I was kind of almost doing my version of that.
yeah.
But
Well, I guess that's
over
natural.
time, you find.
I guess that's natural, especially when you're like you first do a podcast. You wanna there's this sort of automatic response of you want to sound as professional as possible.
Yeah, that went out the window.
well, yeah, but it does. But when you
Mm.
first start, you kind of like it's almost whenever you do anything in like that goes out in public, or if it's even it's get up stage, it's like I don't want to sound like a dickhead. I don't, So you want to sound like as informed and and intellectual as possible.
And we tried way too hard in the first few episodes. I
Yeah,
mean,
well, it's
we've got listeners who actually prefer the earlier
yeah.
ones, but I struggle to listen to the first 2 or 3
Do you?
because I just think they are very, very stiff.
Should we just record like like Doctor No and
Well, I did sort of say that as we were getting to the series. I was thinking, can we go round to just about maybe Goldfinger again? And just
well, I think
stop there.
Goldfinger was towards the point where it tipped over, wasn't it? With the fall.
Goldfinger was when I first felt it was us. I mean, let's just start with my first ever podcast was you, Becca, me, and what's she called? Florence.
Yeah.
And it was fucking dreadful. Mainly because of poor connection.
Yeah.
We had a nightmare with Skype that night. I'd never done this before. Becca was nervous. I was a little bit nervous. I don't get nervous podcasting now, and I haven't for, well, since about 10 minutes into the first one, to be honest. But the sound quality was awful. The rapport wasn't quite there with 4 of us. Anyway. And I just thought, I've had a go at podcasting now, and that was fucking bollocks. And I thought that was it. I just thought that would be the end of it. And then you just said, well, we'll have another go.
Yeah.
And we started chatting offline, the 3 of us, what became Do You Expect Us to Talk? And we just said, let's start again. And I said, should we just start with I can't remember which one it may have, I'm taking credit for it, but it may have been you. Certainly one of the 2 of us said, should we just have a general chat first? Which set the precedent of like an intro episode for longer series.
Yeah, oh yeah, I was like, I think if we were gonna do it as an actual podcast, I think it was the decision to do it as a own separate thing. Probably just to space out the episodes as well. But I thought, well,
because we thought that was it, and we thought, well, by the time you do an entry, an intro and a rankings or something, it'll be like 26, 27 episodes, and we'll be burnt out.
Yeah.
And that's it.
But so we'll see how it goes, and then we decided to carry on with other film franchises because there's plenty to choose from. Are there any? What's the one you're looking forward to the most now? Because we've done now. What is it? 4 franchises now. Just about finish off all.
At the time of recording this, we're just about to finish Superman, which is the 4th one. Yeah, we did Bond, Indy, Star Trek, and now this, and we go on to Rocky. Rocky's the one I'm really excited for at the moment. but I think that's just because it's right on the horizon. I think as as I'm deep into Rocky 4 and going, yeah, this isn't that good, is it? I might feel a bit different.
Yeah,
But certainly the first couple of that series and the last couple, I'm kind of excited about.
you're in the middle
I
watching
think,
Rocky 4, and then you realise, shit, Rocky 5's next.
yeah, I think also, yeah, because Rocky 5, strangely, is the most dated of all of them.
Mm,
With all, but there you go. I think it tells me I've got the right format for me
yeah,
in terms of what I record because um, a few things really. Firstly, I'm excited for every series when we start it. Not necessarily as excited by the time we finish it,
yes.
but
As Star
but yeah,
Trek proved. Yeah.
Star Trek I was sick of. I mean, when we get to Marvel, we've already said that if it's like 18 or 19 films at that time, we're not doing them in one hit. I think Bond is different because we're Bond fans and it covers different actors, different decades,
Different
you know,
styles as well. It's like
different
the series
styles.
just changes as well with
But there's an inherent comfort to it at the
yeah.
same time because you sort of do and don't know what you're going to get.
Mm.
And we know them really well. And that's the other thing with retrospectives, that they see you through worse times in your life. Because one of the things I lose when I get, I'm just going to say it, depressed, when that hits me, I sometimes lose film, which is heartbreaking when you think it's the thing in the world I love most. But I sometimes lose that ability to really dig into lots and lots of new films.
Is
So
that, and
uh,
and pardon me for asking, but
it's a constant.
is that just like
I don't care. Ask him.
is that just kind of like you just lose interest in just everything?
I think it's partly that. I think it's a few things. It's firstly the big symptom of depression that never really gets talked about is, or rarely gets talked about, is tiredness. You are very tired a lot of the time. And so there's that, but I think it's an element of interest, it's an element of concentration, and I think there's a kind of the funny thing is I've learned as I've got older, depression and low mood aren't always the same thing. I can actually be perfectly likable, happy company during this sometimes,
Mm.
but I do find that I get a degree of I become a bit of a misanthrope around films sometimes. I'll go through. I'll know things are going slightly awry when I go and see, like, I don't know, 6 films in a row at the cinema and not really like any of them. Because I mean,
It could
obviously,
just mean you saw like a lot of shit
bit of
films. So,
yeah,
in
I mean that
fairness,
can happen. But the thing with retrospectives is twofold. Firstly, I know the film generally, not always. There might be the odd one, but generally I know the films. And secondly, I can, because it's something that I'm familiar with, and it takes me out of the era I'm in and all sorts. I find it very easy to do the work around it. I don't find it difficult to take the time to watch things and read things, and I'm very good at watching things with fresh eyes as well. So that's the hardest thing with this. I defy anybody to watch Star Wars when you've seen it, 30 or 40 times,
it's
and actually really watch it.
it's funny how like films always seem better usually when you rewatch them. Even like it's really bad, it doesn't. Even like the really like sort of terrible films that you probably despise.
Yeah.
You might don't get me wrong, you probably still despise them, but they don't seem as bad as that first initial viewing that really fucking hate. I mean,
I mean, I've got it
it's
wrong a few times, but generally speaking, it's about being fair.
yeah,
That's all.
it's rare that you see a film that you loved and then you rewatched it, then you hated it. That very rarely happens.
That hasn't happened many times. It's happened
I can't think of an
once or
instance where it's
twice.
happened personally, but
I can't think of an incident where I hated a film, but I can think of an incident where I thought a film was amazing. Where when I rewatched it, I realised that I was a bit more stoned than I thought when I first
yeah,
watched it. Blade. I like Blade, but the first time I saw it, you'd have confused me from someone watching One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest for the first time. I was like, this is fucking genius.
well, sometimes when you just watch a film that's in the right mood,
Yeah,
and even though you kind of like know yourself, isn't that great a film, but it just catches you at the right time. I remember walking out that Angelina film, Soul, buzzing. I was like, I really fucking enjoyed that. And like, I was walking out,
yeah,
and the guy pretty much said the same thing to me. He was like, "Oh, it was really good, that wasn't it?" I was like, "Yeah, it really was."
yeah.
It was just like quite an average action film,
Yeah.
but
I'm laughing. Assault's not at all a bad
no,
film in
no,
my opinion. But like we were sat here talking like it was like The Bourne Identity or something. It wanted to be, but it wasn't.
yeah. I mean, like structure. I mean, like if you think about like all the stuff that went into that film, like in terms of the writers and all the stuff that was cut out, it's
Mm,
absolute mess, really. But you know,
mm.
it hit the spot, it hit the sweet spot. And I do often wonder, like even now with Logan, I do think I
How
I,
will that stand up?
I do feel like I need to be watching it because when I walked out of it, I mean, as I said to you, I told you this. It's quite possibly be one of the best X-Men films. And now on thinking about things, I do have certain issues. And I think I'm
How
not
much were we? How much were we
sure.
sold by the rating, the change of tone, and a really great couple of central performances?
Yeah, yeah. I just kind of think, okay, but is the film actually that good? Is the action actually that good? Um, does it kind of?
I need to rewatch as well.
Yeah.
I need to rewatch. I think there's been a bit of an overreaction to it, but maybe we'll
Well,
get to
that's
Logan down the line this evening.
yeah. Well,
But yeah, in terms of podcasting, retrospectives suit me because I think also I've got like a history degree and things like that, and like history and politics. So I do kind of like to, for all the messing around. I often jokingly describe us as the most tonally confused podcast in the world, and I think there's some truth to that because it is a load of really silly jokes and pissing around because I've got an extremely juvenile sense of humour, and so have you, thankfully.
yeah.
Um,
Becca's the worst though.
God,
She's
but Phil, this is wwhy tonight we can
I mean,
get
yeah,
some.
I got you on for some like for some sense, really, but you said that.
Yeah, because you thought, well, he's a bit older, he really knows his Bond. You get me
You're
on in
reining Becca in
episode
for.
4. Honor Blackman! And then a huge intake of breath from Becca and a 5-minute giggling fit from you.
Yeah,
I was like, this isn't the book. I do sometimes, I mean, Becca does enjoy it, I know she does, but I do sometimes think this isn't what Becca signed up for, is it? Becca signed up to, have a nice chat through the Bond films, which are some of her favourite things. And she's there while, like, we're talking about two Bonds Eiffel towering a dead Judi Dench.
oh, I think she enjoys it regardless.
Yeah, I think so, because the thing is, she cracked us. So she said something on Twitter today on the Do You Expect Us to Talk account about having a theory about why Goggles always sitting down. And I'm thinking, she feigned such disgust when I came out with that theory. And now she's on Twitter going, tee.
Oh,
So,
she's like your little
I,
Padawan, isn't she? She's like you're like training her to in the world
yeah,
of filth and like.
yeah, you can just imagine her, like, going onto her own podcast by herself, and I sat there proudly crying, wiping away a tear. Oh, little girl's all grown
Oh
up.
yeah. Going on to
But yeah,
podcast,
it took.
telling her first sex joke, you'll be like,
Yeah, she did. The first time we ever sort of really let Becca down, I think it might have been You Only Live Twice. She told a wanking joke, or she made a reference to wanking, and none of us spotted it. And she was like, "Come on, keep up." She was like, "Come on, I've cracked 7 episodes in, and you haven't even appreciated it." But yeah, I mean, it took us till Goldfinger to start sounding like us.
yeah. I think it's the
I
same
think.
as anything though. It's like you kind of like have a few episodes to warm up anyway.
Mm.
Um, so you can only sort of do practice runs so many times. You just got to sort of like buckle up and get to it. I'm sure if you listen to most podcasts when they first from episode 1, they probably sound
Mm.
different to how they actually sound now. Until they kind of
And it
find their
evolves
feet.
over time, so you don't always spot what the differences. But
Oh,
but
definitely.
certainly since the start of the Roger Moore, we've been more or less what we are now.
Yeah. Have you?
I mean, there's some in jokes and running jokes that have developed since,
Yeah.
but yeah, more or less.
So have you warmed to Roger Moore now? Because at first when you started doing the podcast, you were like, you weren't a fan of his. You kind of like always dreaded coming on for his Bond Bond
Well, I looked
films.
forward to them and dreaded them all into one. In that I was looking forward to getting to it to really try and watch these things afresh. But at the same time, I was like warming up by watching the odd one,
Yeah.
trying to like desensitize myself. Um, I don't know. I still like now what I've always liked with Roger Moore in terms of the films, and I still dislike what I've always disliked. But there's one film of his now that I genuinely think is really comfortably top 10, and I would throw on any time. Whereas Roger Moore was always my last choice. I'd rather have watched any other Bond in any other Bond film, almost. That's not the case now. Now, when we rank them, which is recent enough that I would still claim that as probably my current opinion, 3 of my bottom 5 were Roger Moore, but in the top 8 was For Your Eyes Only, and I still think he's magnificent in that. He's too old,
Yeah.
but it still arguably should have been somebody else. But he was revelatory. He was that good in that film.
Who would you say was your, if you were ranking the Bonds, and we probably discussed on the podcast, I can't remember what it was now, but it was yours, Sean, was it? At top?
It was, but as we got to the end of the series, I can't really split those 3. I think I was
3
sort
is
of
in Sean, Craig, and
Dalton.
Dalton.
Yeah, I can't separate them now. I think the only caveat I would give is that we're still in the Craig era.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at the Brosnan era, that was a lot more popular at the time than it is now. So we do need a bit of distance from it. But as we are in it, I think he's been very special in the role. But
Shame the films
yeah,
aren't that good. Well, I say
the first one is.
the first one is well, obviously it's my favourite, but I just thought Spectre was kind of really bland and average. Really.
Mixed feelings about it because I don't think it's anything that special now. I think back on it, but it is a bit be careful what you wish for because I did want to see him do a very straightforward Bond film just to have one in there.
The problem is it was Mendes. It's like he was literally just there, kind of like just out of moral responsibility more than anything. He didn't. He just kind of felt like he was. Just...
I felt the same way about. I mean, we'll get to it later in the year. I felt very much about him with that as I did with Nolan on The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, I think there's probably a similar sort of thing. Maybe.
I mean, he seemed to do The Dark Knight Rises almost as a thank you for them funding Inception so heavily. And there are shots in The Dark Knight Rises, which I'll point to when we review them, where I go, that shot tells me he no longer wants to do this series. It is down to almost individual shots that I'll go, a properly motivated Christopher Nolan wouldn't have even put that shot in.
Yeah, I mean, I'll look forward to seeing that. I mean, for me, it's all down to the plot.
The plot's dreadful as well.
Just in generally, like the plot holes, like the whole, how did Batman get into Gotham, like from being in the cave in the Middle East somewhere? You know, it just like, and then the answer is, joke answer is always, because he's Batman. Yeah, but in the same context.
There's some truth.
Seriously, come on, like.
But it gets silly. Yeah, I know. I sort of didn't have as much of a problem with that bit because he's resourceful and he was out for 7 years on his own anyway. It's the same as when Bond turns up somewhere. You think, he'll probably figure it out. But yes, you are right. That every time there's a plot hole, that anything to do with Batman, it's like because he's Batman.
Yeah, it's like poor storytelling, though. It's and I'm not sure whether it's a mixture of, I don't know. I just kind of like my heart's not in it, or whether he strikes us more as a filmmaker who thinks more about ideas and themes rather than the plot, especially when it comes to big superhero blockbusters like the Batman series. I feel like he's probably thinking, I'm not really concerned about it because most blockbusters don't make sense, so why should I? I'll just be a bit more intriguing and get and talk about the nuances in certain things, and ideas. And
I'll be able to.
And it's just frustrating, really, as a person who naturally wants to watch a good story. Go like, how can you have a blatantly big plot holes like this?
I just think the film is clunky.
Yeah.
I just think Nolan's never been. He gets criticised a lot for his action. I actually think his action is appropriate to what he's doing most of the time. Batman Begins being a very good example.
I'm going to be obviously we're going to rewatch it, but thinking back to that film, I don't think the action in that film is well done.
It got slaughtered. It got criticised, but I thought it was right for what the film was. But when you get to what I think his biggest flaw is his dialogue. I mean, the most obvious. Offender is.
Do you know how you got these scars? No, but I know how you got these.
Well, when I look at something like Inception, because it's quite a difficult concept for everyone to grasp.
Yeah.
the characters have to explain the plot to each other. I mean, it is show don't tell. It breaks that rule. It's still a great film despite breaking that rule. But I just thought by the time we got to The Dark Knight Rises, they were describing the themes to each other.
I thought Inception got away with that. I think Inception did that really well because I think you needed.
I think it was a necessary evil.
Yeah, you needed that. Is it what's her name? Short lesbian. Hard candy. What's her name?
Oh, fuck, I'm blanking as well. We both know who we mean as well.
Yes.
Juno.
Yeah, Juno. Yeah, which you got Juno who.
Thank God we got her name right, Ellen Page.
Ellen Page. Well, she's pretty much like the person asking the question. So what's happening now? What we're doing? So like Leonardo DiCaprio or Joseph Gordon-Levitt can actually explain things
that how it works.
Yeah, going on. But the film moves in such a fast pace as a way that it almost doesn't matter, and it's almost like
7 years from now, when you can't think of your name, Chris Bird is going to refer to you as short lesbian.
Short lesbian. She's lesbian, isn't she? I'm like, yes. Yeah, go. Can you imagine if I didn't even get that right? Even can't even remember your name. Don't even remember your sexual preference.
Hey, it's cool that you went with Hard Candy first because that film's terrific.
It is. I've not seen it for ages, as well.
Yeah.
It's better went for that than Juno, isn't it? Really, it's like got a bit of a street cred for that. So yeah, what was talking about? Yeah, Nolan.
Well, we were talking about Nolan and Mendes. Really, I think we were talking more about directors where their heart's not in it, and both of those films are enjoyable in their way. I think because the world's got ever more polarized that you've got to love something or hate something. I walked out extremely disappointed from The Dark Knight Rises, less so from Spectre, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, Dark Knight...
even though I'm not saying Spectre's a better film, I'm just talking about initial reaction to both of them. But I did feel in both cases that we had directors I wasn't convinced wanted to be there.
My initial reaction to Rises. It started off well, but then the rest of the film just felt like really sort of, oh no, this just feels a bit like dead, really. Not not that it's terrible. It's just a bit, it's okay, and it only ever really got like exciting in the last 30 minutes. So like the climax of the film was, I kind of got the old feelings back when we were watching the Dark Knight. And I was like, oh yes, actually, it picked something up, and it had like a really sort of nice emotional end to it. And so it kind of saved itself for me. But while the most of the film is a little bit okay, we're just going through the paces almost. I mean, Bane's
the bit where he comes back into action as Batman. You're in for quite the show tonight, or whatever the line is. That section of the film I thought was joyous. Joyous being the wrong word for a Batman film. What I mean? I thought it was terrific. The rest of the film, less so.
But basically, the bits were out Batman.
Yeah, and bear in mind we had about, what was it, 4 or 5 seconds of Batman?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm exaggerating, obviously. But then, and again, I never really made peace with that Bale voice.
I think they backed themselves in the corner with that, didn't they? I mean, like,
he was stuck with it, wasn't he?
In Begins, it works really well, and you think yes. But then when he has to
it's not treated there though, is it? It was just him lowering his voice.
You got to think when it's actually used. With that first scene when you see it used, you think yes, he should be using that kind of thing to scare the living shit out of fucking criminals. When he's there casually talking to Gordon, still, he just goes, "Okay, come on."
It's just in the third one where he quips. So that's what that feels like. It's like it's not a one-liner's voice, really.
Given the fact that, like, why are you covering your voice now? Like, who's about listening?
And then people will go, yes, that's because Batman's the real him, and oh, fuck off. It was a poor artistic choice, and they've been stuck with it now.
Yeah. But I mean, that's one of the things that, like, Batman vs Superman got right. They had, like, the voice changer thing. They had, the kind of, like, almost the voice...
Yeah, it's like a modulator thing you can turn on and off.
So
he doesn't have to get home and cough his guts up because he's been doing that all night.
But even then, it's like even when he's like talking in the batsuit, you can go, okay, well, at least it's that thing, and it's like a logical
Yeah,
purpose, not like I'm just doing a silly voice.
I had real problems with Dark Knight Rises, but we'll get to that
Yeah.
later in the. But yeah,
Tune in to another podcast later on this year if you want to hear what Dave's problems is with Dark Knight Rises.
well, I've gone through some of them, but I've got a few more than that.
Oh,
But
yeah.
we'll get. Um, but yeah, I mean, in terms of just sort of back to Bond briefly, yeah, it's very difficult to be definitive on Craig because he's not finished yet.
Mm.
So we'll just see how and you need to see how you feel about it a bit down the line, and I certainly think when I look back to the Brosnan era, which I liked at the time and I now really don't, I think a lot of it was I'd almost forgotten what was possible in the role. He looked the part, he looked good in a suit, but that's not enough. Dalton had only been there briefly. He hadn't been that popular anyway, and you thought about it as like looking cool, waving some gadgets around and being stylish. And then Craig comes along and reminds you that so much more can be done with that. And this time, unlike with Dalton, married to huge commercial success, which the Dalton era wasn't in quite the same way. And now, when I look back on the Brosnan era, it just looks so pathetically thin. And I think, but that's not to say someone comes in, starts a new era of Bond, and then we look back on the Craig era and go, Christ, that was a bit over serious and tortured, wasn't it? So I think we got to live for it. We got to live with it for a while.
I think that's probably quite possible. It's going to be like Craig's probably looked at some point as like, God, very po-faced, wouldn't it? Why couldn't it be more better?
Yeah.
Why could it be more like fun, spontaneous, like the Brosnan era?
Yeah, why can't he wave his knob around on camera while Em watches and goes, well done, James?
Why can't he loosen his ties? As he goes. Why can't he straighten his ties? He goes underwater in the Thames, like.
I know. I don't know what. I really don't know what Bond film that was. I'm looking for there, where the mission finishes and we get a camera on Bond's naked crotch while he waves his knob around, and then Ray finds or whoever goes, "Well done, James." I don't see that happening. Yeah. Got some strange ideas in my head.
So I was trying to think of a funny like one-liner, like he's trying to attempt re-entry, sir. Yeah. That'll suit that, but anyway, so so we talk about like podcasts. So what actually made you a film fan in the first place, David? Or Dave?
Well, Christopher. What made me a film fan in the first place? A mixture of things. Very, very, very early exposure to a cinema. It's not for everybody. I do despair when I'm in some cinemas and there's children there who aren't ready for it, aren't interested, and all the rest of it. But I was an unusual kid. I'm an unusual adult, to be fair. But I was a really unusual kid in that, not for everything, but certainly with films and books, my attention span was more akin to that of an adult. So I could sit quietly and watch a film for 2 hours at the age of 4, which I would imagine is unusual. I'm not a parent, but I would think it probably is. So I had very early exposure to that massive screen and the light coming up from the projector and the sound, which again, I think I've said on a previous podcast of ours, not as impressive as you get now, but certainly more impressive than you get at home. So it was partly that, and it was partly being an only child. I also went to a grammar school, so I was not necessarily living that near to a lot of my school friends.
Yeah,
and I was a bit of a.
This is sounding a lot like me, really, because I don't know. I went to a grammar school.
And I was a bit of an odd kid. Anyway.
Yeah.
And I was a bit of an odd kid anyway. Not in any kind of weird way, but just I didn't. The things I thought about, the things I liked, the things I said.
You didn't play football. You didn't You weren't like in with the cool kids, or you weren't like.
Actually, I got on all right with anybody. I didn't understand that hierarchy thing at all.
No.
But consequently, I could talk to anyone.
Well, yeah, no, but
it was just weird.
You didn't fit into any sort of.
I really wasn't. My father once said about me. He said you were never a follower. You think about boy races in a car, and there'll be like 3 or 4 other people in the car, and they're like, they're there because like their mates are doing it.
Yeah.
And I was never really like that. So as an only child, I wasn't a particularly happy child either. and I didn't have a lot of other distractions. The other thing is I had a TV in my room fairly young, and we were back in the era before serious multi-channel television, and before things like Film 4 and film channels where films were shut away. So very often you'd have a film on Channel 4 at 9 p.m. So as much as I was already a film lover, and I got the early 80s, which although I don't think the 80s is the greatest decade of all time, I think from a family film perspective it probably is. I think there were so many iconic, fun series in the 80s that aren't necessarily great cinema in the way some of the 70s stuff is, but just so easily digestible by all ages.
Yeah,
And then
I have a soft spot for
I find
80s.
myself in my, yeah, and then I find myself basically in my room from the age of about 9 with a TV, and in the nicest possible way, because I don't mean to make my mother sound bad, but relatively little supervision in that I was not a bad kid. I didn't cause any trouble. I didn't need a lot of parenting in a strange kind
Yeah.
of way, you know. If I wasn't overtired, we'll let him do what he wants. So, and then of course, so I'm already a fan. Then things like Movie Drone come along, which Charlie I know has referenced on our other show. I saw The Terminator there for the first time when I was about 11. And then I hit puberty,
Was
right?
that your
And this all
first?
sound
Was that your first like
sorry?
18 film you saw? Terminator.
No, I saw Porky's when I was 6.
Was that your first?
Yeah, I saw Porky's when I
No
was 6.
wonder you've
With
got.
all,
No wonder you've
with all
got a
the
dirty
family.
mind.
My mum loves it when I tell people that. I sat there with my mother with Porky's on when I was 6.
Oh
Um,
wow.
Having said that, I don't think I've ever laughed as hard as I did at the age of 6 when he had his dick pulled through that fucking cap. And then they're laughing in the principal's office afterwards. Have you seen this prick? This prick was last seen hanging out the next locker room. I don't think as an adult I've ever found anything that funny. But anyway.
It
Um,
is actually kind of like very juvenile but very funny at the same time. Porky's. Have you seen the sequel?
yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I don't think I have. And the funny thing is, I watched Porky's a handful of years ago and didn't think it was very good at all.
No.
But as a 6-year-old, fuck me, that was hilarious, and boobs and stuff. But the next thing will sound seedy, but isn't. Bear with me. I hit puberty. Now, we're still in an era where Channel 4 are showing foreign films at 9 p.m. on like a Thursday night or something. So the number
Yeah,
of
you're
those
right.
you
It's
tune
sounding
into
seedy.
on the hope of seeing something, and half the time you do, some of the time you don't. But the fact is, I've suddenly seen a ton of French and Korean and Japanese and Spanish films, which kicks it on another level because suddenly you're getting used to watching films of all different cultures with different languages, subtitles on the screen, and all that sort of thing. So I ended up, by the age of probably 13 or 14, a much, much more rounded film fan than most of my age, and that's kind of stayed with me.
Yeah, I think it's kind of similar for me. I mean, I think. I mean, I wasn't an only child, but I was. There was a huge gap between me and my other siblings. So it kind of almost like felt like I was the only child in some respects. I went to a grammar school. I didn't necessarily have friends who lived near me, so like it's not like I had people to hang around with when I was at home. So
Mm.
what did I do? I watched TV, and then one of the things I got drawn to the most was the Bond films ones on TV. So naturally, I progressed from Bond films to other films, probably generally action films. Um, the just pick up the what like a funny thing like my first 18 film I remember watching was Commando, and I was around my it was one of the times I was around my friend's house, and they were like, oh come on, let's put this on, and I was thinking, but it's an 18. I think I don't think I'm at that young age where I'm that I'm that like sort of
Yeah.
golden boy kind of like I don't know, it's wrong, I don't know, I mean I might be traumatized or whatever or some shit, but anyway, we
Yeah,
put it.
I felt that way when I watched Aliens actually the first time.
I know it.
Because because the first version I saw was, I think it's only is it only the director's one where it's a dream sequence and she feels like the fist come out of her, push up on her stomach.
Oh, I don't
That
know.
was early in the film. I can't remember if that's in both
I remember
versions, but the
that being on
fact is,
TV.
Ripley's. I just remember someone lent me the video, and I hadn't seen Alien at this point, but that kind of. I wouldn't say it scared me, but it got me scared about being scared. It was early in the film, and I thought, "Oh God, how much worse is this going to get?"
It,
I got through it all right though. But yeah,
yeah,
so your first 18, you were shepherded through by John Matrix.
yes. It was one of those weird things where like I was like that nervous about it. It's like no, it's like they were trying to take the more high ground, but they ended up like pulling me on. Okay, put it on. Fucking loved it. I was like, I don't know what the fuck I was on about. This is ace. This is absolutely
Yeah, I
awesome.
know.
So so yeah, that was my like kind of right. I just fucking love that. It looks like I just love extreme violence now. But I guess that's what watching a Bond series does to you. Yeah, no, I remember that. I remember that being on TV as well. The aliens. I remember like sort of when it used to like watch other things in different rooms. You watched more like child friendly film that was on ITV, or,
Mm.
or whatever it was, and you like aliens on the room. You sort of peek around, have a look, see what your parents watching. You have that like scene. Think, what the fuck is that? Look creepy as fuck. But then like the weirdest thing scary when you're a kid. I mean, I remember being fucking terrified is it Ghost in Ghostbusters? No,
Which one's Gaza?
is it? I,
Describe it.
no, it's basically the main bad in Ghostbusters. You know, the chick with the red eyes and the
Oh right, yeah,
spiky
no, I know
hair.
you mean.
She
Yeah.
just freaked me the fuck out. So I was like, I was
Mm.
petrified of watching Ghostbusters. Then the animated series came on, and I was like, I fucking loved that. So that solved that problem. But it's the weird thing how like things just freak you out when you're a kid.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the first thing I was really scared of was an advert with June Whitfield in it, where she says something and her nose grows, Pinocchio style. In age 3, I used to run out the fucking room at that. It's just really like there was another one where Matthew Kelly, is it the guy who used to do Stars in Their Eyes? He was in an advert for some cool mint or something, and he would freeze in the advert, and that used to scare me apparently as well.
Yeah,
My mother told me about that one, the June Whitfield one. I remember, but yeah, it's really Stranger Things. But it got to the point though
you probably
where
scare kids now these days. Allegedly.
I struggled. I,
Sorry, bad joke.
right. Well, there's only one. There's only one I could. Yeah, yeah. He froze. Totally dead. No. The I'm thinking back to the one time fairly recently I dated a woman with a child because I don't have any kids, and I've always said, and I said there that I'm a very poor judge of what kids should watch because I watched everything, and I don't think the negatives in my personality are in any way attributable to that. I think broadly speaking, it hasn't really done me any harm. But that's not to say I think kids should be watching, Nightmare on Elm Street and shit like that.
Yeah.
I remember, my dad rented a Nightmare on Elm Street from the video shop on one of the weekends I was with him. My parents were divorced, and he put it on, and I was fucking terrified. You know the bit where the woman just gets like scratches down her
Yeah,
side
yeah,
while
yeah.
she's sleeping. He's watching that in front of me. I was about 9, right? And I ran out the room, and my dad left it on, right? So I spent the next like hour and a half in the bathroom, right? So
Well,
that
I'm
should
not
have stopped
stopping
me
it.
more harm than actually fucking seeing it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I'm not a very good judge now as an adult because I watched The Terminator, thought it was great, wasn't bothered by any of the sort of sex or violence in it. I didn't think it was that bad at all. Um, Similarly, with other things I saw around that time, like Predator and stuff like that, and all these sort of foreign films I saw, as I got a bit older. And then you'd go to school, and it would be end of term, and they put on a film for everybody. But of course, they've got to be fairly conservative in what they choose. So at nearly 13, you're sat there watching Danny, Champion of the World, and you're just thinking like, I was watching fucking The Terminator last night. This is shit. So it did create the fact that I went my own way with film actually meant it increased the sense of feeling a bit other from everybody.
I
So
think
totally different
I
things.
remember going to school. I mean, this was like a pretty much Catholic school as well. And everyone's like talking about fucking Nightmare on like Freddy Krueger. Like so,
Yeah.
how many Nightmare on Elm Streets have you seen? Like at that point, I haven't seen any of them. They was just like, but it was like the coolest thing to have seen. And you had like things like, have you seen RoboCop and things like that, and one kid at one point was like talking to me how good Terminator is. you know. And I
Yeah.
was like, these films that I had no access to, you know. They weren't necessarily broadcast on TV. I mean, like, so I wouldn't.
Well, the RoboCop was extremely violent.
I mean, like
I think it still remains
the
very, very
the
violent in
first
its uncut version.
the first time I saw it, I had to record it on TV, and that was edited to crap. I mean, I watched that. I think this should be a 12. What the you know? There's no violence.
What's your
Yeah,
problem?
I was like, you know,
You wonder
but
why it was 42 minutes
then they're
long,
kind of
but
like, oh, it's edited.
yeah,
They they then you see it, think, oh, this now we're talking. My arm's getting blown off
yeah.
and shit. Uh,
Yeah, his hand being blown off, and also when he's in the hospital
yeah,
dying, basically, and all the wounds on him. You know, as a kid, that's pretty hard hitting stuff. Then you got the toxic waste scene.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, RoboCop. I do think the 80s were, and perhaps the early 90s were sort of violent almost because
But there's also cartoon violence as well.
it was deregulating. Yeah, it just feels like it was the first time they could get away with this stuff, and they were going to, you know.
Yeah,
And of course, I suppose they hadn't yet realised the power of the PG-13 rating, even though it existed.
I know. Yeah, I mean about
Financially, I mean, not artistically by any
yeah.
means.
Well, by that time it was like 12 as well, wasn't it? They had
Yeah, but I'm just thinking of where it all comes from. You know, America and the PG-13 probably were kicked off in about '84.
I mean,
So
yeah.
by the time of RoboCop, if we'd been in today's environment, it probably would have been far less hardcore than it was at the time.
I mean, yeah. I mean, they really have softened up on the
Yeah.
ratings. Like, it's very rare you get an 18 now. Most of the time, it's a 15, and that's with like a lot of violence. It normally has to be something that's kind of either something sexual or something like really, really graphic, like something sort
Yeah.
of really sort of like. Uh,
People have to say cheesy comestibles multiple times to get the rating these days.
well, I don't think it's even necessarily that. I think it has to be. I think it's more about the tone, if anything. These days, it's something that's like as nuanced. It's like something like Green Room, you know, where you see really gruesome violence done with you know day to day objects, you know, and done in a really grisly way. That'll be an 18. Whereas like your general action movie with everyone getting shot in the head and heads exploding, that would probably just be a 15.
Yeah.
So I think that there is a level of that. I mean, I do think kids do generally understand that, and I don't think they necessarily get traumatized by certain things.
Yeah, but the one thing that actually made me realize I am at least somewhat of a functioning adult is the aforementioned lady who had a son. I was there with him one day, and I had Amazon Prime on or something like that, and I went to find some Batman, and I went to find the animated series, and I put it on, and of course the first episode of the animated series has got Man Bat in it, and it's kind of got quite a very dark tone to it. And I immediately, sensitive kid, and he's only 6. This is a bit much for him. And I went and found like Batman. What did I go find? Brave and the Bold or something like that
Yeah,
instead. So I am aware that like every kid is different.
but how was he
But
reacting?
I'm very.
Was he kind of like, oh, I'm not enjoying this? Could you tell? Or
We hadn't got to that part, but I just had a feeling it would be a bit much.
okay,
I just had a feeling. It wouldn't have bothered me at that age, but I do realise everybody is different, and he was quite a sensitive kid, in a lovely way. I don't mean
yeah,
that
yeah,
to be
yeah.
nasty at all,
Well,
but I just think that
you
he was just all I'm saying is that if you said to me at what age should kids be allowed to watch, well, I'm very difficult at judging. I'm very poor at judging that sort of thing because I
It
just
depends
watched
on the
whatever I
kids.
wanted.
It depends on the kid, though. It really does. It
Yeah.
depends on like who they are as a person, what they like. You know, I mean, I think kids generally are kind of they're like sponges. And you know, and I don't mean that in a negative sense. They absorb all the badness, but they do like
Riddled with bacteria.
yes, no, but they do take it all in. But they are able to accept it for what it is. You know, they see a load of gore. I mean, sometimes I mean sometimes they catch them at like a certain age. Yeah, but I think it's more like the tone.
Yeah, I mean 6 was probably pushing it, but yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah,
like I was saying, like being like 6, 7 or whatever, watching Commando. You know, you can kind of like that's probably a good introduction to that kind of thing because it's so cartoony in
I would say
itself.
so because it's not. Yeah, and it doesn't have the pervasive fear in it. You watch something like Predator.
Yeah,
It's not the best effect in the world when you watch it now, but Carl Weathers has the bottom of his arm shot off. There are people getting skinned, but even if you take all of that out of
yeah,
it, you've got you've got a climate of real fear in that film, and that will bleed through to a kid watching it. I would have thought.
yeah.
Whereas Commando's really gung ho. I don't see a problem with that.
Like
But then I haven't seen it for a few years, to be fair.
I mean, it is just basically like a comic book, more or less. But yeah, but something like Predator. I mean, if you probably watch Predator,
John Matrix. It
if
really is up there with Monkfish, isn't it?
if you watch like Predator at a certain age, there is a good chance you could like walk out. You'd be like, as a really young kid, you'd be like terrified that Predator's like in that tree outside. Just you'd be like shit, shit.
Yeah, well,
Uh,
I think Predator is a film. I think instinctively, I think the likes of Predator, you put alongside an Alien, you're very, very careful who you would show that
I
to
mean,
below a certain age.
Alien less so because it's very much set at a place that is not like you can't sort of relate back at home. You know what I mean? You can kind of go like, okay, that's way over there, so I can kind of like right, I'm okay with that. But I'm not saying that won't ever happen. I'm saying less. Well, it might be less likely.
I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to try. I wouldn't want
No, well,
to try
actually,
it
to be
on with a
fair,
6-year-old.
no. To be fair, actually, no. To be fair, thinking about it, having said that, the imagery in the Alien films are extremely harsh. So it would be like turning it,
Yes.
seeing the head upside down. Like, "Whoa?"
Probably wasn't the best
But
idea we've
you
ever had.
but you remember.
Kids should be watching this.
No, well, but what I'm saying is like I saw like you get terrified with like Terminator 2, just the idea of the T-1000 or the Thing or something where you think shit it could be anywhere, or I mean a film that terrified me for weeks, and to this day it's the one film I walked out on. Not because it was bad, because I was shit scared and I was probably 6. It was The Witches. The
All right. Okay.
it was the only film where I went to watched it with my mum, and it got to the point where they all took off their masks, they were all like revealing their plans and that, and they found and the kid the boy in it gets caught, and I was like, oh, I have to go to the toilet, and I was like, I just didn't want to go back in because I was
Yeah.
I was just scared after I was just like I remember like sort of hiding in like the kind of like couch, just like I just don't want the witch to see me. Just kind of like pretending that they might be outside, like looking at me, like sort of.
Yeah.
And it's just this like this kind of weird idea because of like any of these like seemingly nice old ladies with like who've had purple eyes wanting to eat me. It's just terrifying. I watch it like now and I think, what the fuck was that about? You know?
Just your age.
Yeah.
Just your age. Just the age you were. Yeah. I guess. I mean, as I say, I mentioned
So
the
it could
first
be
time I
anything
saw
really.
Aliens, I was a little bit nervy. It was going to be really hardcore, and then I was okay with it. But I found with a lot of horror, which really isn't my genre by and large, but I find it's the fear of fear that more than fear, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean. You think, what if this is really graphic, scary, horrible, creepy, whatever? And then most of the time, it isn't.
Do you think horror films have forgotten to do that now?
I wouldn't describe myself as expert enough on the genre to know, because just going by sort of social media and sort of straw poll of friends, I don't think the horror genre is in poor health at all. Actually,
But there's not been many horror
done badly,
films.
it just tends to be a load of jump scares and shit like that.
Well,
But
exactly. I mean, I've seen horror films that I like and I enjoy. I mean, I do like jump scare ones. And I've seen like ones that have like good that play well with ideas, and I do have good jump scares. And I think it is improving for what it has been. But there's not seemed to be that same childhood fear, and I wonder whether that's just like an age thing.
age, yeah, I tend to really only sort of gravitate towards two types of horror films. Horror isn't massively my thing. That's not to say we'll never do another a horror genre on the other podcast. I know Alien's been asked for a few times, and Alien is the honourable exception. I really do like that. I love The Thing as well. But generally speaking, I gravitate to things that are only very loosely in the horror genre anyway.
Like Blade.
Like, well, no, not like Blade. I wouldn't call that horror at all, actually.
Actually, no, you said that.
I
Blade
would
2
say,
is really good. I walked out Blade 2 thinking that's fucking ace.
see, I prefer the first one. The only problem is they blew their wad up front. The
Yeah.
best scenes are the first. But yeah, I was more interested by the first, maybe because there's a bit more world building in it. I don't know, but um, I think of things like Carrie going back a few years, and I think more recently, as in last 10 years, something like Let the Right One In, which I think is a beautiful film. It's technically in the horror genre.
Mm.
It is a horror film, but it's really a sort of treatise on friendship, really, and it's got this beautiful, almost untouchable visual to it. It's almost like being inside a snow globe, and I love that. And then the only other sort of the only other horror I ever gravitate to is I do like the occasional slasher. I do occasionally enjoy a Halloween type film,
Mm.
and I did like a few of the Nightmare on Elm Street films, but it's not wildly my thing. You know, people rave about a horror film. Last year it was It Follows. I think it was maybe the year before. This year it's Get Out, and there's a couple of others as well over the years. I just look at them and I just think, well, I'm sure they're really good, but I can't be asked. I'm not really that bothered.
Get Out is pretty good.
Yeah.
I saw it in a preview. And it does a good thing of blending jump scares with a decent concept and with humour as well. It's a nice choice of humour. The one major issue is it does run out of story, like in its last third.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, like it is like I think it's probably like the coolest film to praise right now,
Yeah.
currently. But I was talking about it's like one of the film for year's best and that. But I couldn't get away with the fact that while it is still entertaining, and don't get me wrong, I enjoyed like every minute of my time with it. But the
Yeah.
last third of it just completely just runs out of story. It goes like, okay, well,
We're done. Yeah.
okay. It's like all that. I mean, I can't say what actually happens without spoiling it, really. But
No, and I might get to
it
it.
pretty much plays all its cards, and it goes right. Okay, well, I don't know.
Play it again for half hour.
Pretty much, it's just kind of like, all right, well, what should we do? How should we end it? Okay.
The two films I thought of while you were talking about all that is when you said there was humour in it. Whenever anyone talks about a horror film that's got comedy in it, and I
Scream.
don't mean comedy. No, I always think of American Werewolf in London.
Oh yeah. Well, you I try to be film literate, and you just like beat me with like the cool boy.
Scream never quite did it for me. I kind of liked it because it was a slasher, but I never found Ghostface as iconic as like a Mike Myers or something.
Yeah.
And it's much better than, but it almost shares an uncomfortable characteristic with the sort of scary movies and date movies of this world. That pointing at the existence of something is not satirizing it.
Well, in its defense,
And
it did it first,
yeah.
and then those movies came along and kind of ruined it.
Well, they're not. They're very different. I mean, it's the screams and the scary movies and the date movies and all the rest of it are pointing at things and just going and expecting that makes it funny. I think Scream is pointing at things and saying, "Aren't we clever?"
Yeah.
Because we've noticed these are the rules, and then we're just going to play into them exactly. I always found it a bit up its own arse, frankly.
Really, I mean, I've always enjoyed Scream. I really like Scream, and I think.
Oh, I liked
And
it.
you know,
I liked it.
yeah.
I don't want to be too harsh
No,
on
no,
it.
no, no. I mean, I think you kind of you possibly
But
it's possibly right.
It's not to me the great everyone thinks it is.
No, I mean the one thing.
Not everyone, or a lot of people paint it as.
The one issue I have with it is that it wasn't never scary for me. It was really enjoyable.
It's not scary at all.
It was really enjoyable, and I really liked the kind of references and that, and I really kind of like the in jokes. But I just never found it scary. But for me it didn't really matter because I just found it that enjoyable. So it was just easy to kind of put on. But it's also kind of brutal in places as well. I mean, when you know, Well, Drew Barrymore like gets killed at the beginning. You forget how actually horrific a
Oh,
scene
I
that
know. It's
is.
like knife in her heart, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like, but it's not only that. It's not only that initial thing. It's like her being stabbed while being on the phone to her parents, calling out for
Mm.
mummy, and then found her hung out in a tree outside. It's just like that is fucking
Oh,
brutal.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, no, I've gone with
Now
that.
that is an
But
18
I mean,
film.
it's very difficult, if you're going to be sort of nodding and winking and knowing and everything else as well. It's a very difficult tone to get right, and it's much easier to put sort of. It seems to be easier to put horror overtones in comedy than it is the other way around. Like a Shaun of the Dead or
Mm.
something. It's a comedy film, really, but you've just put overtones of horror. And the one film that's ever really got it right, which is like a horror, but it's got genuinely good comedy in it for me, was American Werewolf in London. Because I just thought that was such a sharp film.
Yeah.
And he's just chatting to this decaying corpse of his brother and stuff like that. And, they end up chatting in a fucking porn cinema and things like that. I did think that was a really great film.
I don't know. I think Dawn of the Dead's got some good slapstick in, isn't it?
Which version? The original.
Oh yeah, of course.
I love the original Dawn of the Dead.
Not
Yeah,
the Zack
it's the only
Snyder
one.
one.
It's the only Romero. It's the only Romero film I really, really like.
I really like Night of the Living Dead.
Night of the Living Dead's good, and it's creepy because it's sort of black and white and all the rest of it. But it was also quite brave as well, black leading man in that era.
Yeah.
But I mean, Day of the Dead and all, I don't really like very much at all.
Yeah,
But Dawn of the Dead's pretty.
I never got on with Day as much as Dawn or Night of Living. I never, it's the one that kind of I just feel a bit indifferent about. I don't know why.
Yeah. I do find it difficult with one-trick ponies anyway, particularly in horror, because it all just gets a bit childish after a while.
Yeah.
I can't lionize Wes Craven like some do. Nightmare on Elm Street was great. I don't know. If he directed 3. 3's really good. New Nightmare's a bit polarizing, but I kind of liked it. But
No, he
I quite liked.
he,
Was it
he,
Hit the Hills?
he
Was it Hills Have Eyes? Was it
yeah,
his?
that's his. Yeah, he did. He didn't
I
do
quite like
three.
that.
He didn't do. I think he just produced
Right.
three.
Oh, he came back for New Nightmare.
Yeah,
Didn't he? That was
but that
very
was
good.
kind of like Scream-esque life with the kind of like
It was a bit of a
imitating
post.
life kind of thing.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, I liked some of his stuff, and he definitely made a mark. But when a Wes Craven film came out, there was always a good chance it'd be crap.
Hmm. Did you
But there was also a good chance it wouldn't be.
did you ever see that non-horror film he did? About like with Richard Dreyfuss as an opera, like in an orchestra kind of thing.
What, Mr. Holland's Opus?
Yeah, I never saw that. Well, have you seen that?
I think so. Sorry to sound so non-committal, because I think I have. I immediately identified the film. I think Richard Dreyfuss was Oscar nominated for it.
Oh shit, was he?
Yeah, I think so. Mr. Holland's Opus. I'm just going to look it up. Hang on. Mr. Holland's Opus. I just seem to remember it. It was all around the same time as stuff like Pulp Fiction and that, I think. Hang on a minute. Critical. Yeah, Dreyfuss was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actor. Yeah, thought he was. Yeah. Don't remember much about it, except he was nominated, and it was one of the lower profiles of the nominees that year.
Yeah, it was one of those ones that was just like kind of nominated, but there's no chance of you winning.
I think so. I mean, you never know because there's often surprises, but yeah, I do remember. I do remember that film being nominated. I do remember it. Yeah.
What did you make of the Oscars this year?
Hadn't seen enough, to be honest. In all honesty, also got my arse in my hands because Amy Adams wasn't nominated. But the thing is, right, she could be getting a load of buzz for like the fucking Muppets or something, and I'd still be furious if she wasn't nominated. And I think it's because I think she's been robbed of at least a couple so far.
Yeah. Would you think it's the Arrival? Arrival she'd be robbed of.
Yeah, yes and no. I think Arrival was quite a special film, but I can also see how the Academy wouldn't gravitate towards it when you look at the age ethnic voting profile and everything. Ethnic is not what I meant. I meant demographic. Yeah, age. Um, the profile of the average voter. I don't see sci-fi being a big sales pitch, to be honest. But she should have won for The Fighter. What made it worse with The Fighter was she lost to a shit performance in the same film, because she lost to whatever she's called, Miss Melissa Leo, who played Marky Mark's fucking mum.
Oh yeah, is that because she's basically the
And
comedic tone of?
it was a real bleach blonde trailer trash one note performance from an actress I don't rate. And you've got Amy Adams in the film playing tough and vulnerable and likable and a bitch all in the same role. You have to be convinced that she is tough enough to cope, vulnerable enough to hurt, kind and likable enough to
Care.
love, attractive enough to fancy, but ugly enough a character that people could genuinely find her a thorn in the side. And it's a difficult role, and she got it right from the very first scene in the film. And they voted this one note shit performance in the same film over it. And then a couple of years later, she pulls the same trick in The Master. Those are the two. You could argue Junebug as well, but certainly those two. And so I just think it's starting to get. I mean, she's still got a lot of years ahead of her, but it's starting to get a little bit scandalous to me that she hasn't got one.
I mean, look, I wouldn't pay that much attention to the Oscars anyway, in terms of like who they declare winner, because it's. I mean, the whole issue like last year with the Oscars so white, I was like thinking, since when has the Oscars like ever been great at deciding things? You know, you're giving them way too much credit for anything.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I've always kind of had a bit of a love-hate relationship with the Oscars anyway, because I can't claim I'm not interested. I am.
Yeah,
They get it wrong more often than they get right. But generally, within the nominees, you will find the films that go on to become the all-time classics. When they come to select the winner, it's a bit different. But they do tend to sort of nominate the right stuff a lot of the time, in my opinion anyway.
yeah. Well, most
And then,
studios save them up. This one's gonna be like the most
yeah.
Oscarish worthy thing, so we kind of save up for around
Oh yeah,
February.
definitely there is a profile of the type of film that wins.
Yeah,
But within that environment of the sort of quote unquote quality film, I do tend to think most of the better ones tend to end up getting recognised. We know there's a certain type of genre film that doesn't find itself in there. We know that. But I think the 1-2 punch with the Oscars for me over the last few years was Crash winning, which was just such a heavy-handed load of old shit.
well, what
Um,
happened with that? Because I'll be honest, I've never seen Brokeback Mountain, so I'm not gonna sort of swear like
well, yeah,
an
I
outcry
mean,
of outrage, but I just like wondered
Crash
what was,
was,
because it was one expected to
well,
win as well, wasn't it? Everyone like, well, why doesn't?
Brokeback Mountain was expected to win. Again, demographics of the votes I can sort of understand, just as I can understand why Forrest Gump beat Pulp Fiction.
Hmm.
I may not agree, but I can understand it. Um, but with Crash, it didn't have much going for it. It was extraordinarily heavy-handed. The performances were all really overworthy and a bit shit. And it was in that sort of vignette style where you're going from one sort of thread to another. The sort of thing Robert Altman was really good at, but hardly anyone else is. So, I didn't like it. I just thought it was a terrible film. And Brokeback Mountain was quite an affecting film in a lot of ways. I don't even know what else was nominated that year without looking, but I just thought this is an embarrassment that this film is considered the best of the year. And I just thought it wasn't so much Hollywood congratulating itself, but it was just the very fact that it had been brave enough to tackle the issue of racism. It's a bit like, Philadelphia won stuff because it was about AIDS. The film's shit, but it won stuff because it's about AIDS.
Is Philadelphia shit?
Um, I think Philadelphia is dreadful.
Why?
Philadelphia, it's like a TV film with just a better cast. I had the same problem with Erin Brockovich.
Oh, okay.
If you put Erin Brockovich on TV, it would have had Cheryl Ladd in it. you know, instead of Julia Roberts. It was a TV film of the week, but with a budget and a cast. And I felt the same way about Philadelphia, to be honest with you. And the other thing is, Tom Hanks won the following year for Forrest Gump and beat one of the best acting performances I've ever seen. Nigel Hawthorne from The Madness of King George should have won that without any question whatsoever. Because I've seen a couple of acting performances in my life that have got anywhere near that.
Does it annoy you when someone wins and it's like, well, hang on, he's already got one. Why did you not give it to the other guy who's like he's given a good performance and hasn't got one yet, but you just give him to
What I
like
find
the
funny
Oscar?
about Tom Hanks is he ended up well, yeah, he ended up with two Oscars at a stage of his career where I'd seen nothing of him to suggest that he was worthy of that. Years later, he goes and performs in Captain Phillips and produces one of the best scenes I've ever seen in a film, full stop,
Mm.
and doesn't even get a nomination. So it's a bit all over the fucking shop, to be honest with you.
It's like shit like
But
that that makes me think, well, it's like, why does anyone pay any attention to what the Oscars
no,
hey anyway?
I know, I know, and I get over it kind of quickly. But I was over there I was over there 2 years ago. I was in New Orleans watching it in a hotel room, and Birdman won, and I fucking hate Birdman, and it kind of killed. Now there's part of a reason for this actually. My phone rang while I was watching Birdman. That's not what I meant.
Why
My
you're
phone
in
rang while I was
Birdman?
yeah, my phone rang while I was in I said it again. While I was in watching it the first time, and I took the call because there was an illness in the family. I found out my grandfather had died while watching it.
All right.
So whether there is,
Neg-
I mean, I knew it was coming, and it's 2 years ago, so I'm not going to claim any massive upset now. And he lived to a good age, but I do wonder if that's got something to do with it. But I do remember going back and watching it a bit later, and the pomposity of that film was just fucking ridiculous. Not only towards the superhero genre, which I just thought was ludicrous, but it wasn't even that. It was just, look, it all looks like one take. And I'm thinking, Rope did that nearly 70 years ago. It's like, this is nothing new. Faux one take has been done before.
didn't like
There was,
there was like a foreign language like horror film that did that, like Silent House, that got remade.
yeah.
That was like done as well. They said it was wrong take, but obviously it was
Well, I
edited
mean, I
together.
know I
But
know it never won any awards, but like when Vantage Point came out, it was like, wow, you can see the same event from lots of different perspectives, and I'm like, Kurosawa, this is well done. But fine, all right. People do um, discover things at different rates, but I think a reasonably high-profile Hitchcock film people should remember. Not everybody, not in the audience, but certainly a lot of the Academy. And the other thing that pissed me off when I watched that film, apart from how far up his own rectum it was you hear a lot of talk about the Bechdel test in films. And the Bechdel test is basically, it's amazing how few films pass
yeah,
it. It's, to my understanding, and correct me if your understanding is different, Chris, it's a point in a film where two or more female characters, no men, talk to each other about a topic other than the leading man or how in love they are with him.
I know. I think it's I think it has to consist of two female characters, both named.
Yeah.
Have
Oh, both names. Yeah, that's key. Okay.
having a conversation that isn't about a man. I think that is
Or the leading man as
well,
well.
just a man. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's
Yeah.
like you know,
Yeah. Well, that covers all sins.
yeah,
Yeah. You basically say, and the fact is, the number of films that fail it tell you that how poor the writing for women is
yeah.
on average. Now, it's a crude tool in a lot of ways because I'm sure there are films that fail it that have a really strong central lead, but female lead. But it's not a bad tool to just say where are we as a community. Where is the filmmaking community? Uh, the one time in Birdman, two women ended up with time just by themselves on screen. They got off with each other. It's fucking pathetic. I hate that film.
I mean, like,
Edward Norton's great in it.
yeah,
Edward Norton's terrific in it. But
he
I
kind of
digress.
like his character just goes like, oh, I'm just going to disappear for the last third. Um, yeah, I mean, generally, I think it's really well made and it's really well acted. I thought Michael Keaton should have got the award for that, not Eddie Redmayne for the most boringness. Well, I'm not even seeing the theory of everything, but it's just like and
That does undermine your
well,
point somewhat.
okay, well it does, but I mean, I will say this: I've not seen the film because it's one of those films where you watch the trailer and I think, right, you know what? I don't even feel like I need to see this film. I already know exactly what it is, and
This is Oscar bait at its most
it's just
obvious.
like I mean, like if I was like, I mean, obviously not now, but let's say 5 years ago, if I was to make a film, and or if I was to like create like an Oscar parody trailer. Or I think, I don't know what to do. I'll be like, Stephen Hawking. Yes, that'll clean up on Oscars. Lo and behold,
Yeah.
a Stephen Hawking biopic, and it gets edited this young. Uh,
Stephen Hawking, this too. This time he's fighting at
and
Verdun.
it's like it's just like this really sort of like mawkish like melodrama about how great Stephen Hawking, who in fairness, he gets enough plaudits. I don't need. He doesn't need a film to tell the world how great he is. I'm sorry. you know. And it's, I mean, I've not seen it, so I could be proved wrong. It could be more nuanced, more fair,
But just the principle of was, yeah,
just
okay.
generally. And I think,
But he came back the following year, Keaton, in a much, much better film.
he did.
Spotlight is a far, far better
He didn't
film
win it.
than
He didn't win.
Birdman.
Win Best Actor for it though.
No, he didn't. But that year, last year when Spotlight won stuff, I was perfectly happy with that because I
Yeah.
thought Spotlight was a terrific film.
It's just how it. I think it always winds me up. While like if sometimes the Oscars treat it like a Golden Watch, like you're saying with Amy Adams. At some point, she's going to win an Oscar, and it's probably not not going to be something that is not considered her best work, but she'll end up getting one.
Because it's her time.
Because yeah, and you're thinking, right, if it's a Golden Watch, okay, fine. If this is how you're playing it, I can deal with that. And when they kind of like go off that, like for example with Stallone when he was nominated for Creed.
Yeah.
And I kind of got like, and don't get me wrong, I really liked I've forgotten the fucking name.
I think Mark Ruffalo won it, didn't he?
No, it was that new theatre.
Oh no, sorry, they were the two I would have been happy winning it, and it was neither of them.
It was Rylance. Yes.
Which was
he's a great actor.
Yeah, there's understated, and then there did he even turn up on the set? I couldn't believe he won for that.
Really?
Rylance,
Yeah.
I couldn't believe he won for that. I'm all for understated, but I couldn't see what there was in the performance.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Couldn't.
I see what you mean. Yeah, I mean, like, I liked it. I liked his performance.
Oh, I liked the film as well. I did very much.
Again, it's like, okay, but if you're gonna do like the Golden Watch thing, there was your chance to give it to Sly, and yet you gave it to the guy who you know. I mean, fair enough. He's like not like both spring chickens, but you know for a fact that Sly's not going to get nominated for anything.
He's not, because even though they don't always get it for their best work, they've got to get it for a somewhat worthy work. And he's not going to be nominated for The Expendables 4.
And not only that, because it's Rocky, it's like a nice little tie-up, isn't it? It's like,
because it won Best Picture.
I know. It would have been almost poetic. It would have been like lovely to see. And yet, no, yeah. you kind of go, oh no, we're going to give it to the guy who's probably going to get nominated again, like next year or the year after. He's probably going to like.
Yes, because he's seen as a prestige actor, and he's British, and they like fucking nominating.
Yeah, and it's just like, and like Keaton, when's he going to actually be nominated for Best Actor again? What's the likelihood now? But you give it to the young guy who's probably who got nominated again. You just think, why? I mean, I liked Jennifer Lawrence, but you kind of gave the Oscar to her for what's it called? That felt like.
What did she win it for?
It was that was film kind of about mental health in it. Silver Linings Playbook. Yeah.
Oh, Silver Linings Playbook.
Yeah. They gave it to her where. I mean, I didn't think the performance was that great or Oscar worthy. I mean, I like Jennifer Lawrence as that.
Did she get nominated for Joy as well, where she's a total fucking miscast?
I believe, I'd like to think so. I mean, she's pretty.
It just shows you how thin the women's parts are. Well, I mean, as great as Meryl Streep is,
she's like the Oscar darling.
But I'm pretty sure that's why she's nominated every week, because every year.
Well, it feels like it, doesn't it? Every week.
It feels like every week because they've only got 5. They've got 5 slots to fill, and there aren't 5 great female parts out there.
I would like to say, with regards to Meryl Streep, I think it's more a case of like, oh no, well, kind of like it's just because she's Meryl Streep. And they were aiming for that 20 as well. So it's like, oh, let's cram another one in, and just and even though like, has Meryl Streep done anything that particularly great over these past few years? Has she any?
No, I mean she earned that position in the first place. She was a terrific actress.
Yeah.
But now you just
It just feels like let's just.
I don't know what she would have to do not to be nominated. To be honest with you, because she I've seen her in a couple of things where I've just thought she's not really that good.
I was like, was she nominated for Mamma Mia? I mean, I could be wrong, but it feels like she might have been.
I don't know. Pierce Brosnan, best song.
It just annoys when they don't treat it as such. Then like for example when Jennifer Lawrence won, you had this like the French actress for Amour, who was
who died a couple of weeks ago, Emmanuel Riva.
Yeah, and it's sort of like, oh, you think like she was on her birthday as well. The Oscars were on her birthday,
they flew her there, and she weren't in great health. It was like she made it there because it was like.
And it's like, wouldn't it be like lovely to kind of like give the award to her, and like but no, you give it to the young starlet who has a ton of nominations next year, and it's just like, I can't get my head around it. It just doesn't seem like either you do it as like the best performance, which they get it wrong. I don't know. I'm no expert. I think it's probably just more about the politics and how
sometimes
they
vote. But sometimes it's objectively
it is
wrong. Sometimes.
But sometimes I think you missed your opportunity there.
I mean, Shakespeare in Love is a Best Picture winner.
Yeah. And what did that beat?
Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah. What else was nominated that year? Because to be fair, I think Saving Private Ryan just felt like as good as it was.
Had a great opening half hour more than anything else. Still better than Shakespeare in Love. Yeah,
true. I've not seen Shakespeare in Love, but I don't think I'm missing out on much.
It's not very good. It really isn't.
And Judi Dench won an Oscar for that one scene she's in.
What? Sorry.
Judi Dench won an Oscar for that as well, for that one scene she's in.
I thought you meant for Saving Private Ryan. Fucking hell. She's a total miscast in that. All right. I always have to guess the year because you always go by the numbers on Wikipedia. I got it. I was out by a year because I'm looking at the year American Beauty won. So it's actually the 71st. It's the year before. Shakespeare in Love beat Elizabeth, Life is Beautiful, Saving Private Ryan, and The Thin Red Line.
Yeah, I have to go with Saving Private Ryan for that. Out of those choices. I think.
I know Life is Beautiful pisses a lot of people off, but I actually think that's the weakest of the five that won there.
What, Life is Beautiful? I've not seen Life is Beautiful.
Life is Beautiful is kind of cloying, but it's kind of moving as well. Maybe that's just me because I'm a big softie, I don't know. But I liked it, but not everyone does, and that's fine. But so I can happily take that out of the list. But I think the other three are better than the winner.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, I don't know why that even got in, really. I don't know how it even got voted.
Miramax, Harvey Weinstein. You need to read a book. We don't need to read a book, but I can recommend a book called Down and Dirty Pictures by, what the hell's he called? Peter Biskind. And he talks a lot about the work of Miramax and Dimension under the Weinsteins and their campaigning for Oscars and so on. And Gwyneth, hey, guess who was nominated for Best Actress that year?
Gwyneth Paltrow.
No, she won it, but Meryl Streep was nominated.
Oh shit! Yeah.
For One True Thing.
I don't even know what that film is.
Nor do I. Kate Blanchett was nominated for Elizabeth. I think that's the rightful winner right there.
Yeah, she seems. Did she win an Oscar? She must have. Oh yes, for that Woody Allen film.
Who? Kate Blanchett. Yeah, she won for Blue Jasmine.
Yeah.
Which is not a very good film, but the performances are great. She's very good at. Well, no, I don't think it's necessarily her best performance, but she's very good at it.
Yeah. Well, you know how I feel on Woody Allen.
Yeah. She won for Blue Jasmine, and the nominees that year were Amy Adams, but that was American Hustle. I'm not too upset she didn't win for that. Sandra Bullock for Gravity, Judi Dench for Philomena, or Meryl Streep for August Osage County. Philomena's the the closest, I think, in performance. I've seen all of those. Yeah, no, I think she probably deserved it for that.
But you could probably find other films though, couldn't you? Like in that year, they'd probably be like, okay, that's better performance.
That year, what are we looking at? It's the year of 12 Years a Slave, but Lupita Nyong'o was supporting. Blue Jasmine, Sally Hawkins one was on for Best Supporting Actress. She was actually probably the better performance in the film.
I'd
I
say
really
so.
quite liked her in that.
I mean, she's great. I think she's underrated. Well, I say underrated. She's just not high profile.
She's not high profile.
No.
And Jennifer Lawrence was nominated for Supporting Actress for American Hustle, where frankly she was a miscast. She was way too young.
She kind of got away with it, but I think she.
See, that year I would have liked to have seen like Before Midnight win some stuff, but there you go.
Seen what? Sorry.
Before Midnight was released that year.
Before Midnight. What's that?
It's really weird with sequels. The Before
Oh
Trilogy,
yes.
Richard
Oh
Linklater,
yes, of
Judy
course.
Delpy and Ethan Hawke.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The third one's really raw because they have a
proper
they have
row.
a potential. Well, they have a potentially career-ending argument in their hotel room, and I remember tweeting from just after the film, from the lobby of the cinema, going, "That was uncomfortably like watching my marriage end."
Yeah.
Different rows, different reasons, but just the tone was bang on, and I just thought it was really good. The bizarre thing is sequels are always adapted screenplay, which made me laugh. Before Midnight was best adapted screenplay.
Just because it was based on a previous
Because
work.
exactly the characters and that. Because I was just like, that cannot be right. Yeah, but it is. Anyway. So, yeah. But The Matrix didn't win Best Picture, Chris.
Sorry, The Matrix didn't win. No, it didn't. It didn't. Should it win? Should it win Best Picture?
Hey, no.
All right.
But that was my attempt at a smooth link.
Oh right, okay. Because of the news of the reboot that they're apparently going to do, or the remake.
I don't know which it's going to be. Which it's going to be will actually slightly.
Have they not said it's a remake?
No, I thought it was a reboot. I don't know. I don't know if the Adventures of Neo will be canon or not.
Okay.
Or whether they will just be apocryphal or ignored. So I don't know. I don't know whether it's a literal remake with Michael B. Jordan as Neo, Follow the White Rabbit. I don't know that it will be that. I think it will be a new story with enormous similarities in a similar universe.
Is that why you think it would be a good idea?
I think it would be a good idea for some reasons that are good reasons, some reasons that are bad reasons to a film fan, but we've got to understand the universe we're in. Look at the box office take for the original Matrix films. It's a big IP for a studio that is, it's Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers, although it's taken a fair bit of money for the start of for Batman, Superman and Suicide Squad, certainly the first of those two didn't take anywhere near what they would have hoped for. It opened big enough, but it went nowhere. So it opened at over $500 million and stopped at about 800 million. Harry Potter has finished, and I don't think the new series will gross quite as big as Harry Potter, The Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah, because it's not as good.
No, it's the thing is, and they'll probably be, they'll be expensive to make as well, all the period detail and stuff, and effects, obviously. So I think all studios are looking for IPs now, intellectual properties that they can mine and exploit. And I can't blame them for that. The reason for it is quite simply films are too expensive, and it really hits home when you go and do a retrospective series, and you actually get to see this sort of budget inflation over time. In the early 60s, the biggest series in the world was James Bond, right through probably Thunderball, and Thunderball cost, I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's something like 8 or 9 million, one of the two. I knew at the time, and I know it's in that ballpark. You did have films like Ben-Hur, which cost something silly like 13, and Cleopatra and stuff. But the fact is, films were just nowhere near as expensive. I mean, Star Trek: The Motion Picture pissed money up the wall and still came in under 40. Even allowing for inflation, Terminator 2 was something like 100 million. That was expensive. But if you take films from decades ago, add inflation to them, and see where they would end up now, a huge budget then and a huge budget now are two different things. There is talk of Infinity War costing $1 billion in terms of total studio investment in it.
Yeah.
So that doesn't include marketing, I believe. But that's still, marketing is usually less than half the budget. You still could be looking at a $600 million film there. None of this confirmed. It's all conjecture, but films are too expensive. So studios need sure things. So from a business point of view, it makes absolutely perfect sense to me. And any argument of why are Warner Brothers doing this? Wake up. It's a business. You may not like it, but purely on that basis, it's a business. Of course they're going to do it. Don't be stupid. We then get on to whether they should. And I always felt about The Matrix a couple of things. 3 things, in fact. Firstly, as groundbreaking as it is, I don't actually think it's dating that well. I think it's very much like when you go and watch something like Rocky V, in that it just looks so of its era. And I think that's really, really true of The Matrix, more than many action films. And I think, so an update on it, I don't mind. I think secondly, I feel the same way about any kind of sequel, reboot, remake, anything else. The original's still there. What's your problem?
Yeah,
The Matrix was still there.
I've always had
I
that.
don't. Yeah, it's like, well, they made a Ghostbusters film last year. It wasn't very good. So what? Ghostbusters is still there if you
Yeah,
love it.
I mean, like,
And when you say Ghostbusters to most people in 20 years' time, I think it's still going to be Bill Murray, Harold Ramis,
I,
and all the rest of it that they think of.
I remember listening to a review of the remake of the Nightmare on Elm Street by Commode, and Commode got really angry, get pissed off, not in the fact that he obviously didn't like it, but was the fact that when we talk about Nightmare on Elm Street, he has to now, no, I mean the original, and
But
now
6 years later, 7 years later, that's not the case.
yeah, like who gives a shit? No one's thinking about the remake. Everyone's more or less
To be
forgotten
fair,
it.
it flopped. It didn't make huge
Yeah.
money. But the fact is, when you say Freddy Krueger now, you don't think of that guy.
No.
You know, you think of Robert Englund and the original films. So there is that. But 2 other points on it. I think, firstly, they already soiled it with the sequels. Do you know, if The Matrix had just been this amazing one-off thing that had been made, I'd sort of see your point. I'd still kind of disagree, but I'd see your point.
Yeah.
But they were pompous, pretentious shit. Now, they presented themselves as a bit more highbrow and all the rest of it. But they may as well have been the Star Wars prequels to me. It's a very similar principle in that you've taken something that works extremely well, soiled it, and let's see if we can salvage it somehow. I think that what we've got at the moment is 3 films out there, one of which is pretty dated, but it's very, very good, and 2 piss poor sequels that are so far up their own arse. Sometimes you'll meet someone who professes to like them. Well, I'm sure there are people who like them out there, but I think most people who profess to like them just think they're saying something profound, and they're really not. They really aren't. But I felt about The Matrix the same way I do feel about the Star Wars universe, that I just feel, I look at George Lucas and I think, right, you've set out the sandpit, the toolbox, and some of the rules on which you've put the let's go with a slightly better analogy. You've laid out the canvas and the tools on which we can paint on that canvas and some of the rules that go with it. Now let's get more talented people in to create, or not even more talented, but people with different ideas who can make something of your world. The Matrix is potentially, it does depend on how it's used and how they build the lore, but the Matrix is a particularly rich world of potential that's only actually been exploited properly in 1 film. What we saw was a fucking tech demo that's not dating that well. And then 2 sequels that were pretentious shite. If you can bring in fresh filmmakers with fresh ideas, if the first film is like a Force Awakens where you just do a proof of concept, that's fine. But he might be perfect for John Wick. But I mean, we're looking at these films. Keanu Reeves ain't really an actor. As I say, the film hasn't dated that well. The sequels are terrible, and you've got this rich sandpit. The other thing is, when you look at something like Reloaded, you could already see the beginnings of where this world could go in terms of a marketing, because it came out with the Animatrix, it came out with the video
Yeah.
game, which did very well and was supposedly pretty good and told different parts of the story. I think it told Niobe's story, didn't it? At the same time as the film was going on. Um, there is a rich multimedia potential in this that can be visually iconic, that can expand on the ideas that are already there. I think I'd love the Wachowskis being given money because they try, and I love people to. I like the fact that man's reach exceeds his grasp, and they are proof of that. They're always reaching, but they can't quite grasp. They very rarely nail the landing, and so I'm quite happy for it, a la Star Wars, to be put into fresh hands to see what else we can get out of this universe. And the Matrix is still there. If it's shit, walk out after the first one saying, wish they hadn't brought that back. Go back, watch the 1999 original.
You make a really good point about the remake. I mean, when I first was made aware of this, and this was only like, well, the break was it yesterday? Wasn't that long
I
ago?
think
Was
it
it
was a couple of days
a
ago.
couple of days ago? Um,
I mean, by the time this is released, it was in the last week
yeah,
or
yeah.
so.
So, um,
Mm.
I just instantly thought, who wants this? Like, I mean, I don't really get angry about remakes. I don't go like, oh no, why are they doing this? And I'm more thinking, why are they doing this? It's not like it's like, um, is there is there an appetite for the Matrix? I mean, I know, I understand from a business perspective. I mean, it made money then. Why not see if it
Well,
makes
yeah,
money
you
now?
do. Yeah, I mean, we're not going to know for certain. I
Yeah,
mean, it's a little bit like Avatar in that way, in that it hasn't had quite the cultural footprint that we thought maybe it would have had,
yeah.
given relative to its success. I mean,
And given that James Cameron wants to make nothing but Avatar films now, like, oh no,
fine.
I'm gonna make another three. It's like, hold your horses.
I don't get it with remakes. I know there are some sacred cows out there. I mean, I don't want to see a remake of It's a Wonderful Life. I really
Mm.
don't. But I don't want. No one wants to see a remake of Back to the Future.
I mean, like,
But if they do it, the original's still there, and you have to understand how studios are financed and funded now. And I'm saying this to people I've spoken to on Twitter in the last few days who know as much or more about the business of films as I do. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. If you don't, don't do it, Warner Brothers. If you don't understand why Warner Brothers are doing this, then I despair. But on top of that, if you open your mind a little bit and actually understand there's probably a little bit of potential in this.
I
There is some potential to tell other stories.
I think it's more from a case of like they just rather see original stuff rather than like, oh, don't just spend more money on something that we've already seen before. I mean, like, I think it's also a case of generally we've been burnt before, like too many times. Like generally when they like remake something like Total Recall, for instance, you know, when that got remade, there's shades of like, no, it's going to be more like the book. Well, no, it's just a
They
pale.
gave it to Len fucking
I
Wiseman.
know, and then it just turned out to be a pale, remake of the film. It was like, well,
Well, I mean, it was visually quite nice to look at, but it was also the least visually fucking innovative film of all time because they had two sides of a planet. He's adapting a Philip K. Dick novel, and one side of the planet looks like Minority Report, and the other side looks like Blade Runner. It's just a man with singularly no fucking vision whatsoever.
I know, I know it's Len Reisman. He's not really made a good film at all. But I think it's. I mean, I do agree with you in the fact that there is. I'm not really for knee jerk reaction. I mean, I do generally think, why are they making this? But I'm more kind of like, okay, I'm intrigued to see where they're going with this. Like, okay, I mean, because you never know. I mean, as you say, Dave, they could be. They could have like, if we were like to sit in the Warner Brothers offices while they talk about remake, they could be like talking about doing something, and you might, fuck,
The pitch might be
that's a
amazing.
really fucking good idea. This might be amazing,
Mm.
or at the very least, you can see like that's interesting. I'm kind of interested to see where this goes now, or like or see if they be able to pull it off. But we're not, and we don't know what they're thinking. I think what we fear is they're just going to do like a pale retread of the Matrix again, which
Yes,
I
yeah.
don't think anyone really
And I think
wants.
actually, if they're going to come out with multiple films, I think that's very possible. I think that there is that kind of Force Awakens thing that you just, and Goldeneye, that you introduce something very low risk, very familiar to start with. I think a lot of it is going to depend on whether I don't know whether all the sort of Neo stuff is going to be canon. That might that might be interesting. That might make a difference. Um, I don't know is the honest answer with it, but like I say, I sat in cinemas however many years ago it was, 2003. I saw both of them, but the Reloaded was the big shock because there was so much hype and the original was so well received and everything. And I sat and watched like the sleepwalk through this fucking boring bullshit with Keanu Reeves incapable of an expression, and he ends up in a room talking to the architect, and the architect spills out all this impenetrable bullshit trying to sound smart, and I'm thinking they've screwed the pooch. This is terrible. So I end up going to see Revolutions or whatever the third one was
Yeah,
called,
it was.
and that was even fucking worse. And I just thought, well, they fucked it up already. They fucked it up in their own universe. What harm can be done here? The very worst case scenario is they spunk a load of money on it and it comes out crap.
Well,
And everyone goes, well, that was a bad idea. So
for
what?
me, the problem with the sequels, I mean, like start. I will put. It's probably projected in my thoughts of the film was, I really, really love the film until the very last few seconds where you see him flying. That's the moment where it loses me. But it doesn't matter because there was a credits after that. But for the moment he starts flying, in other words, where he basically,
But that was an immediate. That was immediately. Don't make a sequel.
yeah, and
But they did.
it's like, okay, well, when your lead character is essentially um, computer Jesus. In other words, okay, whenever we're in the Matrix, which is kind of like the world we want to be in the most. I mean, you kind of want to see like what it's like in the real world. We want a bit more world building, yes, please, but really we want more of the action set inside the Matrix. And when your main character in the Matrix is basically just unfucking touchable. And I mean, like Kenny Reeves, what expression can he pull? He's just like, yeah, I've kind of got everything. I can just take on anything without any effort
But
whatsoever. It's not
at every
engaging as a
turn in that
film.
film, I know, and at every turn in that film, they layered on more and more what they thought was thematic weight, and everything was so ponderous. He sits down with the Oracle in a park, I think, and I think it was subject to some of the earliest memes and parodies because Keanu Reeves just pulls one expression, says everything in one tone, and you think, well, actually, it's kind of appropriate because you are that remote from the human race. Um, but the film did paint it as an eternal struggle, in the same way that the Star Trek, sorry, in the same way that the Star Wars universe says that it's an eternal struggle. You don't just blow up the Death Star and kill the Emperor, and that's it. Well, obviously that's a business decision because they want to keep making Star Wars films, but there is no reason that there aren't different flavors that can be told within the Matrix.
Yeah,
And even the Matrix ends up configured differently as people start to clue into what's happening and that it is a trick and maybe the time wouldn't look like this. And so you come out of you think you've come out but you're still in and things like that. There's all sorts of different things you can do with it. And one film that's going to be 20 years old by the time it comes out that isn't flawless, no matter how much your memory tells you it is, that was already soiled by a couple of terrible sequels. I don't think that's a good enough reason to not try to get more out of this universe. I really don't. Particularly against, you may not like it, but that business background is key. That business rationale is key. When they are spending $100 million on films, they've got to have at least some reasonable expectation there'll be a return.
yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with that logic, and I don't want to put it past Warner Brothers, even like
Mm.
say remaking films like the next year if they could, you know. um,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you do wonder what the window is, but yeah.
I think I think at this point I just think I'm just more interested to see more interested to hear about where exactly they're going with it.
Yeah, I mean, because the irony in light of everything I just said, Chris, is I'm not desperate to see another Matrix films.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm straining at the leash to see another one. I didn't lionize the first one. I thought it was good. It took me a couple of years to come to that conclusion, to be honest, because I've just got to think. I don't hate Keanu Reeves because I really like John Wick and stuff, but but I take some selling on him sometimes. And when I first watched The Matrix, I was so bored by his fucking one note performance. And yeah, Bullet Time had already started to be copied because I didn't see it for about the first year. Um, so, but I got to it not long before the trailers. Sorry, before the sequels. I saw it on DVD, which was like a great format at the time. It was the best we had. And suddenly it took me, and I liked it, and I still like it, but I don't revisit it that often. And I just don't see it as this sacred cow. Have at it. Make another one if you want.
Well, that's just it. I mean, film's different for everyone. I mean, I think the thing of the Matrix is it was. You can debate whether it's actually a good film or not. Most people say it is, but what it actually is was it was an important film. It was an iconic film. It was a definite a film that can stand out. Like you can point to and say, okay, this is
It kicked on the language of action cinema a
this
step.
is where this is where action changed for the worse. I want to admit. I mean, like even though it picked up on stuff which I fucking love, like John Woo, and did it kind of well, but this is the point where with CGI starting to come in, and it was that kind of weird shift, and it didn't quite look right. It doesn't quite look as well as it did. Um, it
No.
still hadn't perfected it, but they were still kind of overusing it for everything these days. So
Yeah,
everything was kind of slow motion, and every action hero was kind of
and
like
and that
cool
has a
and
direct influence on by the time you get to something like the fourth Resident Evil film. I think it's the fourth. There feels like
you
there's
wouldn't
about
know
30
really
minutes
these
of footage
days.
in that film. No, I know, but everything is slowed down and the camera has a little look around it. And that is a direct. Its effect on cinema ended up quite negative, but you can't argue that it was groundbreaking. And like I say, with the Wachowskis, their reach exceeds their grasp, and I like that. I like that the Matrix exists. Bizarrely, I like that the sequels exist, even though I think they soiled the original. Have a fucking go. Why not? See what you can do. I don't think they did a particularly good job with it, but have a go. And that's almost the antithesis of what I'm saying, because I'm almost sort of seeming to sort of,
Yeah.
agree that a remake with virtually no new ideas in it is a good idea. Um,
Well, I mean, like I mean,
but
most things are remakes anyway. It depends how like far you want to go, really. I mean, I don't object to like loose remakes. I mean, I used to joke like when I say joke, it was like I kind of like a kind of an idea of like what Hollywood really should sort of stop trying to remaking stuff and don't be afraid. Just rip them off. If you want to make a film like The Matrix, just make a film like The fucking Matrix. Just take the things you like out of it and then make
I
something
think
new.
I think I always saw the Matrix, like I say, as quite rich with possibilities, even if I didn't necessarily know what all of those possibilities were. And I think the first film just sets up the universe and the rules. And I almost think we'd be arguing about this less if there'd been more films at the time or more in the intervening years.
Yeah.
It's got far enough down the line now that it becomes the dreaded reimagining, reboot, remake, whatever you want to call it. But I'm convinced there are more stories in this world if you want them. The devil will be in the detail, because if it's another Total Recall remake or whatever else, yeah, it'll be shit, and we'll all wish it didn't exist. And Warner Brothers have fucked up a lot of films over the last few years.
Yeah, sure, including DC stuff they've been doing recently.
Yeah,
Are you excited for
yeah.
Wonder Woman? You think that's going to be live up to the
I can't even remember when it's out, to be honest with you. I know it's fairly soon.
about
I'll
June, I
see it.
think.
I think it may be earlier than that. It might be May, but whatever it is, um, I've just got this creeping I don't think it's going to be very good. But
I
I've got no case for saying that
no
other
no.
than DC have made a decent film so far in this sort of era.
I'm hesitant
Um,
because I think there seems to be kind of like a lot of almost hype building up for it, and I think because
yeah.
it's largely down to its importance. You know, obviously it's Wonder Woman, the first cinematic Wonder Woman. It's going to be a lot of interest, a lot of hope for it, but there's also you got to think, okay, well, DC haven't been particularly good recently, so you kind of have to.
Remind me who the director is of this.
Um,
Patty, is it Patty Jenkins?
yes, that does sound right. So, I mean, I don't necessarily think it's the director's fault 'cause I quite like David Yeyer as a director as well. So he's done some good stuff. So it's not. I don't think it's straight. It's you just get a good director and that's it. I think the problem's a bit deeper with Warner Brothers. It's probably down to the production and the writing.
It's quite difficult to fit quote unquote auteurs directors into a
Mm.
producer's series. The Bond series is I mean, it's less important in the Bond series because until recently continuity hasn't mattered, but it's been a producer-led series in that these are the films we're making. Come in and shoot it for us. And yes, the director had to say Terence Young had an awful lot of influence on how the Bond films ended up, as did Peter Hunt, who eventually directed them and so on. But it's very difficult. It's the same in the Marvel universe. They've got a loose direction of travel. How loose it is, I don't know. But they know that there is a straight line from this film to this film over here to this film over there. And they have certain beats they want to hit. There's a certain tone they've got to go for. And within that, they can make an individual film a bit more about a heist or a bit more of a romance or whatever. But a director can't come in and say, this is my vision necessarily. And if he can, it's going to get tempered quite a lot. And then you have Warner Brothers, who I always remember Matt Lamborn saying, I Skyward, that the problem is they think they're a prestige studio. And so they talk about director vision and prestige filmmakers. Well, that's quite difficult when you're creating a cinematic universe. So now you've got
Mm.
Zack Snyder taking it in one direction, with potentially David Ayer coming in and wanting to do something else. And now they're talking to Matthew Vaughn for Man of Steel 2, which is
Okay,
he's a
that'll be
very different
interesting.
filmmaker from Zack Snyder though.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's a bad thing because I think Zack Snyder's fucked it up, frankly. But where is your vision in any of this?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. We'll just have to see. I will always go and see them because I've had an affection since childhood for Superman and stuff like that. So I'll always want to go and see it, and I'll always want the best. But it's not been very good so far, has it?
No, no. So you
And
think
I'm not convinced by Gal Gadot either.
Do you think Snyder's going to bow out after Justice League 2?
I hope so. I mean, he isn't somebody who makes sort of veins pop in my forehead and neck. I'm not furious with Zack Snyder. These things are hard to make,
Mm.
and he came in and did his best. I don't think his best is good enough. I don't think he was necessarily a particularly sound choice in the first place. Um, I don't know what led Nolan that way. Perhaps Nolan just didn't give a fucking shit. I don't know, but I can't get angry with him. I can't get angry with most of these people. They come in and do their best. And I think all the sort of fanboyish rage is bordering on criminal. And it's really silly, to be honest.
Because
But
it's just a
at the same
film at the end of
time,
the day. It's just a.
it's just a film at the end of the day. I know there are characters we care about, but Zack Snyder didn't set out to make a bad film. He made one as it goes, but
He's sitting there even thinking, how can I.
how can I fuck this up? Um,
and make
you have
loads of money in the process, like a big evil.
and he always demonstrated pretty good visuals I kind of see why they went for him, but I'm led to believe the choice was Goya and Nolan's,
Yeah.
and it surprises me in hindsight with what they've got. And he said things about Superman over the years that actually says I'm not sure he really gets the character anyway, and I don't claim to be hugely knowledgeable, but yeah, he's had his shot at it now. It's not been fantastically well received. Let's see what happens with Justice League. But I'd be quite happy if they just say, okay, you helped us set up our universe. Thank you very much. He's done his John
Yeah.
Favreau bit. Now disappear.
You have to be pretty committed to keep doing them. I mean, even someone like Schneider, you would have thought there'll come a point where like I kind of want to do something else now.
Yeah, I know, and he's had a couple of ideas on films he wants to do, and I can't remember what they are now, but it's definitely a lot smaller. But I mean, we've got Matt Reeves in for the Batman.
Oh, is he definitely doing it now?
Yes, he's signed. He's signed. Matt
Okay.
Reeves is going to. Matt Reeves, the director of Cloverfield and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes,
Mm. And the
will
new
be done.
War of the Planet as well.
And that one, yes, he's done the current one as well. The one that comes out this summer, and he will come on and do the Batman. And as I say, we could have Matthew Vaughn for Man of Steel 2.
That could be interesting.
I'm more interested in that pairing. I'm more excited by those two than I ever was about Zack Snyder.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I guess we'll just see how. I mean, if Wonder Woman turns out to be good, like if it turns to be, if it like okay, they could
It's not.
they
It's
could
not
pull this back.
irredeemable
They
yet.
could
Yeah,
they could
yeah, of course they could. It's not irredeemable yet.
like like with us, it could maybe just need to find its feet. And who knows? Maybe Justice League is actually pretty decent. You don't know.
Just think, Chris Pine comes on first reel of Wonder Woman, tells a filthy joke about Honor Blackman, and they're off to the races. I think I'm cautiously optimistic just because different voices are being brought in now. The one note of caution in that is that I still don't know if somewhere in that lot David Ayer made a really good film, because they did about 9 different cuts of it, and the final cut is not his. Now, I'm not saying directors should have final cut, but it does concern me. I hear stories of 9 supposed what were intended to be final cuts, that they had competing and different test screenings and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And whilst I would like a tension between producer and director just to get the best result, I think if they're flailing around with no vision and just cutting it every different fucking possible way, that just tells me they don't really know what they want to put out there in the first place. Other than Marvel are doing it, we ought to. I mean, we've got Aquaman, I think, might have started filming now as well. I'm not sure, to be honest. I think it is.
I know I've heard they're still not shot that yet, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not really up with my news on what's happening.
No, I mean, to be fair, I heard something about footage, but that could have been footage from Aquaman in Justice League, to be fair. We'll see. It's not gone very well so far. I mean, we did 2 podcasts last year, and both of them were slamming quite a lot of DC product. Well, we gave Suicide Squad a hard time, and we gave Batman v Superman a very bad time. So we'll see. Marvel, I think, are continuing to set the standard really in this area.
Yeah, but do you think that I want a bit of competition though. Like, obviously I know that it still is healthy competition, but with Marvel kind of like leading the way, I kind of want there to be a little bit of rivalry and quality. I want Marvel maybe to sort of slip up a few times, and DC to pull out like an absolute cracker, just to kind of like.
It would be nice to have just the surprise of, the Marvel film that we're all anticipating comes out, and maybe I don't want it to be worse, but it's not quite maybe what we thought it would, and suddenly DC pull out a really great one.
Yeah. I mean,
it would just be nice to. It would be nice to think. What I'm trying to say is, I think it would be nice to go in not knowing for certain, whereas at the moment Marvel are just walking it.
They slipped up with Ultron, didn't they? I mean, that was kind of like a yeah.
I thought it was a tired filmmaker who didn't want to be there anymore. I thought about him when you said about what it would take out of Zack Snyder to keep doing them.
Yeah.
Age of Ultron seemed to break him somehow. Joss Whedon.
Do you think that was under constraints of Marvel itself?
Well, I know the scene in the film where Thor goes in and, has his fucking bath. That was forced in by the studio as a sort of Ragnarok thing, but they cut a load of stuff out of it, so it lost context. And yeah, I know there was debates there over stuff. I mean, there were always going to be. There's always going to be. John Favreau walked because, there were issues with the studio. He's still friendly enough that he appears in them. But I don't know. I mean, who knows what goes on inside these places, but I just know at the moment they're walking it. I think the films are actually, on average, fairly mediocre, but they always nail the tone. And they've continued to manage building this universe that shouldn't really work, particularly in live action where you've got actors aging and salary demands and a limited budget as well. You can draw whatever you want on a page, but you can't just put 50 heroes on a screen very easily. So I think they're doing a good job, but there's only been a couple of great Marvel films so far, but they're always okay.
Yeah, I think the key with Marvel is their consistency. They've always been consistent in, they've always been like reasonably good to quite good, sometimes very good.
Yeah, no, once or twice, absolutely sublime. I mean, the Winter Soldier is, I believe, one of the best book films ever made.
You got, I think some people say that about Civil War, wouldn't they? That's like the popular one.
Yeah.
You got like Guardians 2 coming up, which looks promising.
Yes, Guardians 3's been greenlit as well today.
Is it? Well, that's not really surprising, though, is it?
It's no shock, but
Yeah.
obviously they've still got a schedule in a certain number of films to put in, and Guardians 3 will be amongst them.
Yeah, I've heard.
I didn't read the article. I just saw it was going to be. It's been greenlit.
I've heard from reports from early test screenings that it's scoring really, really high as well. So fingers crossed for guys. What else is coming out? It's got Spider-Man and Thor, isn't it? For
Spider-Man and Thor Ragnarok, and then I think Black Panther's been pushed back to something like next February.
Right, so they introduce like the villain for Black Panther in Ultron. They don't put him in anything in for another 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. You'll be telling me his arms grow back next. Sorry about the bag. Sorry.
No, I appreciate the reference.
We've done that, I wasn't confident enough, though. I thought, what if he hasn't got it? Let's do the impression.
Oh no, it was funny. Just the other day, I was just thinking of like, Tommy Crone, is this Putney?
Yes.
That's it, be. Yes, it is.
Here is a purse of money, which I'm not going to give to you.
Do you know the wise woman? The wise woman. The wise woman. Yes, the wise woman.
Yeah.
Sorry, let's just quote Blackadder.
Blackadder the Second, to be precise.
Yeah.
Chris's quotes from that came from the first episode.
Yes.
Which is called Bells.
Oh, it's Bells. I thought it was like basically Kiss Me Kate, wasn't it? Kind of.
No, it was called Bells. Yeah. They all had one-word titles in that series.
But yeah,
it's Bells because there's a wedding in it.
Yes.
You've got Lord Flashheart in it as well. And I liked it when it was just one cameo. I liked his episode in Blackadder Goes Forth, but I really liked his little cameo in Blackadder the Second. The heraldic music, and then he lands, and it's me.
Am I pleased to see you?
What? Yes, but Flash, where have you been?
Yeah. Am I pleased to see you? And I just stick a canoe in my pocket. Down, boy.
Yeah. That's not really about movies.
No. Well, I did say we might go on tangent though. So
Blackadder's on. I think it's on worldwide. I think it's in most territories. I think it's on Netflix.
Yeah, you should seek it out.
Give it a look.
Yeah,
it's really good. But yeah. So I mean, with Marvel, I've got relatively high hopes for Thor. I think the first two haven't been amazing, but there's talk of basically Planet Hulk being incorporated into this story. That's about it. And then there's a Star Wars film at the end of the year.
Oh yeah, which will probably just take all the money in the world. What do you think your odds on that it's going to end with a kind of cliffhanger?
I'm trying to think because they've got to work out what to do about Carrie Fisher now. They've got it's two things really.
It depends where they go with the character as well, isn't it? So, I mean, it depends if it's going to be a relatively small role. They can anyway. You don't know.
I think the thing is, what are they going to do with Carrie Fisher, and B, Mark Hamill's in his 60s as well.
I think they're going to kill him off.
Which is not old, but you just think, well, eventually they're going to want to replace all the old guard. They're not going to want to get, I don't imagine, to like Star Wars fucking episode 13, and there's a very aged Mark Hamill there. So I got to think they will kill off Luke Skywalker at some point. Doesn't necessarily mean it will be this film.
I think they'll probably kill him off at the end. I think they're gonna do like an Obi-Wan thing, and be like there's the kind of like no thing, and then they'll like end on a downer for the last one. Well,
But it's
I
no
say last
problem
one.
because Leia will be back. Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna, don't know what they're going to do there
some
because apparently
some
she had.
some computer a simulated CGI thing where we back a Slayer.
Well, the problem is there's no satisfactory way, obvious satisfactory way to sort it out because, I mean, the Fast 8 approach was with Paul Walker was to have the character effectively retire with his family. Well, Han's dead. Her son's gone to evil. I can't imagine Leia going off to a beach somewhere.
I think his son's going to probably be conflicted and come to the good side for a bit. I think he's going to be one of them characters.
And then they go, to Whipsnade Zoo.
Yes.
And then for a pub lunch in the centre of Windsor.
Sounds lovely.
I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do because I think killing her off might be a bit on the nose.
Yeah, I know what I mean.
And a bit uncomfortable for audiences. And I think, but she isn't the character you could ever see retiring off to something else. So I don't know what they're going to do.
Well, there could be anything. I mean, with Paul Walker, they just pretty much like, yeah, just let him drive off.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, they could just like have a play with some like edit in some sort of way, or something to make it kind of like a nice sort of send off for her, and then just kind of not really.
The thing is, Fast 7 just felt like one big compromise anyway, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, they kind of got away from it. It's only really the end of the film where you kind of like think
when he's playing on the beach, that doesn't look anything like him, does it? Because that's where it's his brothers.
But for the rest of the film, you kind of think, well, what? He must have shot pretty much everything because
But a lot of it they didn't. There are a lot of scenes composited from virtually nothing, and even vocal bits. But I just meant the whole film was just a bit of a. I thought it was a bit cobbled together, understandably so. But yeah.
But we're gonna have a new one of them. We're gonna have another 2 after that.
Yes, with Helen Mirren. And then we're gonna have I don't know, Judi Dench's Triple X. Arthur Askey is John Matrix.
That really would be the Jerry action.
I just can't believe we've got The thing is, as well, they add people to the cast, and very rarely take people out of the cast. So they add The Rock in Fast 5, I think it was, and he's still there, which I've got no problem with because he's really likable. But he's still there. And then they add Statham, and he's absolutely all over the fucking trailer. Do you know what I mean? I just think this cast is just getting so big.
It's pretty much becoming like Expendables, really. That's kind of about how it's gone. And
I mean, if you gave them all a car, there'd be a fucking traffic jam, surely.
Well,
just a whole film with them stuck in traffic.
If you've seen the trailer, they're basically racing a submarine now, and the submarine's firing like missiles at it, and the Rock's more or less catching it as it's sliding on ice and throwing them over cars. Like literally, that is what they're doing now. So
I know they're not particularly realistic, but when I was watching Fast 7 and the news is there reporting on warfare in downtown LA or whatever it is, and the first thing I thought watching it was I leant into my mate and just said, why haven't they scrambled the military at all? But yeah.
Well, why bother when you got The Rock? Just
yeah, you can rip guns right out of concrete and stuff. Oh yeah. And Vin Diesel saved by the love of my family.
Yeah, Vin Diesel. Both Vin Diesel, Vin Diesel and Jason Statham both survive a building demolishing. They were top of the...
Yes, because he's loved. It made me laugh when I saw the trailer the other day for Fast 8, and family gets mentioned in about the first 15 seconds twice. It's just become such the cliched term in that film series.
I know, it's
So we got that soon. I think that might be May, actually, thinking about it, or even
Yeah,
April. I think it's very
yeah, it's next month.
right. So we got that, Wonder Woman, Thor Ragnarok, Spider-Man: Homecoming with Michael Keaton, bound to pick up the Oscar at last
Yeah,
for the Vulture.
for putting
Um,
on like basically a big metallic suit.
yeah, I'm not sure about that. Everyone's wanked off about the new Spider-Man, but the trailers haven't actually
I
done much for me.
I think it's probably just grateful that it's not the Andrew Garfield one, which I actually like. I actually like the Andrew Garfield one
I
as well.
liked him in the suit. Didn't think the films were that good, but then obviously insert Kurtzman's
Yeah,
script
yeah.
second time round, and the first time round they tried to make it like a gritty reboot, which was just like that's not really right for Spider-Man. I've got no doubt it will nail the tone, but I haven't seen anything in the trailer yet that's really excited me. But we'll see. I'm sure it'll be fine. What else have we got this year? Anything? Anything we well, there will be things, but anything we haven't thought of.
Yeah, I mean, we've had Logan, which probably is the first big film, really.
What did you make of it?
Um, well, I kind of touched on it before. I liked it. I mean, I said I need to see it again to kind of have my thoughts. I do, yeah, I do think at last, finally, we get to see Logan be rated 15 or rated R if you live in the States. You get to see her actually cuts people's limbs off, which is kind of what we should have seen in the last film. You know, he's based
Yeah.
off ninjas. Um, I just think I'm not entirely sure it works as well as it's been hyped up to be. I need to watch it again. I I kind of think it kind of loses itself at the end.
I
So
don't like the third act very much.
yeah,
Spoilers for Logan, folks. Go on 5-10 minutes or whatever. But I'm going to do the big spoiler immediately. So um, scroll on a few minutes from now. From the point where Patrick Stewart's character dies, Xavier,
yeah.
I don't like the film very much. I think it was fairly obvious we were heading towards Wolverine's death. You never know; he might get renewed by something.
I think we're heading with Xavier's death for sure.
I think that was pretty clear from the start. I knew before I went in, actually. I can't remember how that was spoiled to me, but I did know.
I think he just gathered as well. You can just tell.
After that, I didn't care. I don't know. I really liked the dynamic between the two of them. I like Xavier as kind of the sort of the preacher for what they're doing, and sort of
The cranky old man.
Logan as like, no, I don't want this. I think. I mean, I've seen Patrick Stewart. I've loved Patrick Stewart for years as an actor. I've been really. He probably is the reason I love Star Trek as much as I do. But I don't know that I've seen him better in anything than he was in this film. I just thought he was absolutely outstanding. And it was nice. It had a different feel and palette from the first two Wolverine films, from any of the other X-Men films. Very dusty, dirty, quite raw. The action was pretty good. I wouldn't go bonkers about it, but it did have a real punch to it all because it was R-rated. And then the film kind of staggers to almost a standstill with this stuff at the farm, with Eric Soulglow LaSalle. I thought of you watching that film with us singing about Soulglow on one of the episodes a while back.
Just
Eric
let your
LaSalle is
soul
he
go.
was in ER as Dr. Benton, and he was also the heir to the
Shit, he
Soulglow
was in
Empire.
ER. Why did I not know this? How did I not
Yeah.
realise this? Shit, he
Yeah,
was.
well, he wasn't wearing Soulglow.
Well,
We
that was
thought
it. That was it.
he doesn't have the necessary cool, but he was Daryl in Coming to America as well. The film just splutters to a halt, and it is, I think, to allow for Xavier to really feel something and try to connect with Logan and say how much it means to him, to also have the moment of clarity when he remembers what he did in Westchester, i.e. killed all the other X-Men in a seizure, not deliberately. But it just takes too long, that bit, and then it just goes into this extended third act I couldn't give two shits about. But for the first hour, maybe 70, 80 minutes of the film, I thought it was very good. I really did. I thought it was terrific. It's not on the level, if you think of it as a superhero film, which it is only because it's a Wolverine film in tone. It's very on the nose, trying to become some kind of Western, really. They keep referencing Shane. But it's not a Winter Soldier. It's not a Dark Knight. It's not a Superman the movie. There have been better superhero films than this. I would probably put First Class ahead of it as well. But it is brave because you're not going to take the same money when it's R-rated. And they went out with the film they wanted to make. Full respect to them for doing that.
Yeah, it's quite, it's quite an adult film. I just don't. I think the end just kind of misses a trick. I mean, I didn't have a problem with when Xavier got killed, but
I didn't have a problem with it happening, but I can almost just say, yeah, after that, I wasn't as
Yeah.
interested. Not because he was dead. I mean, I saw that coming. I knew it was happening before I went in, as I say, not because of precognition. I think I read it somewhere or someone told me. But I was aware he was going to die roughly around the end of Act 2.
yeah,
And that's kind of what happens. But the film has already stuttered slightly with this whole farmhouse stuff, which takes too long. And
it is a bit of
I'm
a.
not really that bothered after
It is a
that.
bit of a long film, and the problem with the problem I have with the Farmhouse film is like they all like Xavier goes like, "Oh God, well let's go and stay and have a meal with them," and I'm like thinking, okay. I mean, I wasn't sure whether the characters actually are aware of this, but they're being hunted by the bad guys, which track their every move and kill anyone. So like, essentially by going over to their house, that lovely family for a meal, you're giving them a death sentence. Even if like they showed up like the next day, they would like question them and kill them. So what happened? So Adam's family's like thinking, guys, are you aware? This is kind of, you shouldn't really be doing this. You should just like go, no, thank you, and fucking off.
The film seemed to have just sort of slightly run out of ideas by then, although it was. I can see how it made that moment of clarity before his death so much more touching. Just the way he says, I don't deserve this because of what I did.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it was nice. It was a nice moment. I did like the idea of bringing like Wolverine clone. I know, but I can understand like some people probably wouldn't. I mean, I don't really know what people's opinions are.
I didn't really have a problem with it.
I mean, but I think here's where it gets to me where by the ending I think kind of missed a beat. Generally, and this is my interpretation, when you have something like that, like a Wolverine clone, I pitch this from a narrative perspective in terms of its ideas and themes. Wolverine has to kind of fight his inner demon, i.e. himself. Therefore, his main opponent is a Wolverine clone. The kid's main opponent is Richard E. Grant, the Doctor. Yeah, and you could say by extension, is it the young girl, the Wolverine daughter character, is the guy with the he's constantly hunting her. You know, the young fella. Now, the guy that I've forgotten his name. I don't know his. He's a good bad guy in it. He gets killed by the kids. Richard E. Grant gets shot by Wolverine, and the Wolverine clone gets shot by the girl. I just think that's I mean, maybe I'm being
you've thematically you've divvied it up wrong.
Yeah, and you think you've kind of like messed up what's supposed to happen here. And I just think, maybe I'm being too traditional, and I'm thinking, no, that doesn't sit right with me, and it just kind of felt a bit like, is that it?
I'd had enough of the film by then. And that's not to say I didn't really enjoy the film. Everyone praising it, I'm largely in agreement with you. I think it was a brave, extremely well-acted film. It took chances. I'm pissed off with the whole continuity in the thing because Caliban was in Apocalypse last year. But anyway, that's fine. As an Elseworlds, which takes a bit of impact away from it, actually, because it's a what-if. But as a what-if story, what if we get to this point, there are no mutants, etc., etc., I really enjoyed it. But once they were pissing around in the farmhouse, I was starting to get bored. And once Xavier died, the film wasn't as good after that. And by the time he's fighting X-24, the Wolverine clone, I'd lost a lot of interest. So I was happy for it to end. but I do think it's at the top end of the X-Men films if you count it as such.
Yeah.
Because I've always counted the Wolverine films as sort of separate. It's at the top end of the X-Men films. It's one of the better comic book adaptations or comic book films in recent years. I think it's being overpraised in the moment,
Because
but I
it's
think
like finally Wolverine gets to kill people,
because
and they
it's
say
gone
fuck a
for that
few
different
times.
tone. I don't know that it's because they say fuck, but yes, they have embraced a more adult aesthetic and they've tried something different. And they've given a definitive ending to well, not a definitive ending because their continuity is all over the place, but they've given an ending
Mm.
for certainly this version of
It's very
Wolverine
abrupt though,
anyway.
isn't it? It's like, oh shit, okay, it's end.
Yeah.
um,
But so I think there's a bravery to it, but I think once the hype subsides and we're left with the film in a year or two's time, I think it will
yeah,
remain a very, very good ending for a very, very good comic book
I
actor and character.
I just feel like Wolverine didn't really get his last moment. It just felt like he just got his ass kicked at the
He
end,
succumbed. Yeah.
and it just felt a little bit like,
But
was
he'd
this?
been dying all the way through the film,
Yeah,
Chris.
I know. I get that, but it's still. I think for it to for it to be thematically satisfying. At least for me. At least for me. Maybe I'm only
Would
being
you?
like,
Yeah, I'm only worried. I'm worried. I'm only questioning how you could do it in a satisfying way, because he's clearly no match for X-24.
well, the,
If he beat him in a straight one-on-one, I think that
well,
might have
for
been
starters,
pushing it.
he just gets his ass fucking kicked in the fight as well, which fine. I understand he would probably lose, but obviously you've had the bullet, obviously.
Right. Yeah,
So
I mean, he could have had the bullet, I
so
suppose,
yeah,
couldn't he?
that's all I mean. That's like he just needed that moment to kind of to fight his inner self and to kind of like to win that, to save the day, so to speak. And yeah, and it's the comeuppance of Richard E. Grant that the kids actually sort of get, or the
I
ones to
thought
kind of.
Richard E. Grant was fucking wasted, to be honest with you.
It was. I mean, like
You could have written that character out quite easily.
you, I kind of liked him in it. He was. I mean, maybe it's because I've seen him in Hudson Hawk, so I was kind of relieved he wasn't doing his Hudson Hawk thing, with his overacting everything. But it was kind of like very sort of. I know what you mean. It wasn't very showy. It was very sort of like plain, matter of fact, very
Mm.
calmly, you know. But he did feel like a real character, you know. Not being doing a dastardly I'm an evil scientist, even though he was that, but he played it a little bit more humanely, and someone who's got a genuine objective and is thinking things through rather than just being like kill them, um, kind of thing. So I kind of liked it from that
Yeah,
respect.
it was okay,
Yeah.
just a little bit wasted. I mean, the film is no film's perfect, but the film is a long, long way from perfect, and I think that's being clouded by tone and great performances.
What I will say is though, like Deadpool, I'm actually happy it got made and it's doing really well, because
Me too.
means
Me too.
that
Yeah.
means it's like we can stop pandering to, like, you can have successful film
They'll learn the
franchises.
wrong lessons from this, though, Chris. They'll go, all right, R-rated. Let's make everything really fucking
Yeah,
violent.
yeah, true. But I don't have a problem.
No,
I don't have a
but
problem with that. Me too.
well, yeah, we'll do the gritty Care Bears reboot or whatever. I just
We'll have like a
they'll
fifth,
be say
a fifth.
it's like Deadpool. They'll all be sassy, smart, and fucking self-aware and all that.
Yeah, I
And
know.
Deadpool is a one-off, but you know.
I know. Yeah, it will be that. I think Deadpool is kind of like Matrix in that example, where it's going to be that thing we're going to point to and say that changed the way action films were made, or how comic book films were made now, or how.
I think the rate of arrival on these things are so fast that they don't necessarily stick in quite that way. If you'd have asked me in 2008, I would have thought comic book films would continue to have been along those sort of Nolan lines of a lot more quote unquote
Mm,
realistic, gritty, all the rest of it. But Iron Man slipped out the same year, and that had far more, in general, influence on the tone that followed. Largely because most of them are Marvel, to be
yeah,
fair.
we're all part of
I
the
mean,
same.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what did they influence themselves?
Yeah.
But certainly, the dominant superhero property at the moment is a lot more colourful than perhaps I would have expected. The problem with me with Deadpool, and I liked it a lot, and I went and saw it at cinema, I laughed, in all the places you'd expect me to laugh. It was funny, and I had to fight the urge to post that on International Women's Day on Facebook. I really had to fight the urge not to post that little clip of her taking him up the arse. um,
It
I
wouldn't be
think the
funny
post
though,
got
wouldn't it? It would be like Happy International Women's Day.
yeah. Yeah. The thing with Deadpool for me was it was really enjoyable on one watch. I could tell it was quite low budget, largely by the way sort of Metallo came out or whatever he's called. Colossus, sorry, not Metallo, Colossus. Um, it's effectively two scenes, that film, really. It's two action set pieces with a few other bits around it. And it felt fresh at the time, and it felt interesting at the time, and I liked it. And about 6 months later, I saw it again on like a Blu-ray or something somebody had, and didn't enjoy it anywhere near as much. It was kind of a one-watch deal for me. And now they're talking about sequels, and I'm like, yeah, I saw the joke. It was done, and it was funny, and it was good and well done. And I don't actually. I'll go and see it if it comes out, but I don't actually want any more Deadpool.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think it depends on what they do with it. I mean, they're doing like one of the guys with John Wick, isn't it? He's got another film coming out this year.
Mm.
Um, with was it Charlize Theron? Um,
That has had early buzz. That's terrific. Atomic, whatever it's called.
yeah, Atomic Blonde. That's what it's called.
Oh, apparently she's amazing in it.
Well, I mean, don't. I'm not complaining when I say this, but it just looks like a female Cold War John Wick, and like I'm
Mm.
not going to complain about it personally, but I'm like, okay, well, okay, fine. Yeah, we're just going to basically do
Mouse.
the same thing again. I mean, I've also just going by first response off a first trailer. The film could be so much more than that anyway. I don't know.
Well, I hope she looks good in a suit.
But if it is just a Cold War female John Wick, I'm fine with it. I'd watch the shit out of it anyway. But
You get more John Wick, really, don't
yeah,
you?
exactly. But like,
He can't be a weaker actor than Keanu.
yeah,
I mean, he's a great mover and all the rest of it. But I know
I do
I
love him
watched
in
the
John Wick though. I was like,
well, I watched the first John Wick the other
yeah.
day, having watched the second one a couple of weeks ago, right? And it's noticeable. I don't know. This is um, anecdotal in that I don't know if this is true, but it seemed like he had less dialogue in the first one. Didn't have a lot in the second one, but it seemed like he had even less.
Mm.
And every time he opens his fucking mouth, it jars terribly in the second one because he delivers it looking down very slightly in earnest and in one tone. And I just want him to shut up and just do action. I'd be quite happy if John Wick was mute. Um, he works in the film. He works in the film just fine until he opens his mouth.
I don't feel that strongly about when Keanu Reeves
I
opens his
didn't in the
mouth.
first one.
Yeah,
I did in the second one. He spoke a few times, and I was like, "Oh, shut up!
I guess the
You can't do that
I
bit.
guess
Stop
I
trying."
guess the nature of the first one, having like just gone through what he's gone through, you kind of like maybe have that kind of okay, he's dour, of course, but by the time you get the second one, it's like, oh, cheer up, man, get
Mm,
over it. But
yeah.
I guess we'll see. I mean, I'm up for it. I'm just seeing what they can do if they can sort of live up to the first film. The first film was actually fun. I mean, what I think they got right with Deadpool in regards to X Men, they just got it. They just like did the other characters like Colossus, but did it with actually joy and not trying to be so serious all the time with him. You know, not trying to like
Mm, mm,
and actually gave him like a role and and actually said, look, this is what he's actually like in the comics. Without making any sort of exceptions or trying to like sort of make him like a big hot sturdy guy. When he's not out of the suit or trying to be like
I
Mr.
enjoyed it. It's
Stoic.
just that there's a lot of talk now about, Ryan Reynolds really wanted Wolverine to be in the next one and all the rest of it. And I'm just saying, let it be its own thing. It doesn't fit in the fucking X-Men
To be
universe,
honest,
even though it loosely is.
I'm surprised.
Just don't
I'm
bother.
surprised. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they really try for Hugh Jackman to make an appearance in Deadpool film, and I wouldn't be surprised if he actually does turn up in Deadpool, even just for like a
We'll see.
cameo. I would not be that surprised.
We'll see. I mean, the sequel might be brilliant, and I'll be there. I'll go and see it. But I just know that my enthusiasm for the first one has slightly dropped away since it came out. It didn't have a great deal of rewatch value for me. Didn't find it as funny second time round, and I just felt like the joke was done. And like I say, I spent a lot of the early part of the show arguing, that remade sequels fine, just have at it because the original's still there. I don't begrudge them making it, but I'm not that bothered. But I know I've got friends who will want to see it, so I'll end up seeing it.
In other words, it's all just movies. The more movies, the better.
Yeah. I'm looking at Rotten Tomatoes right now. I've just looked at some recent scores.
Of what?
50 Shades Darker, 9%. Marvel's Iron Fist, 19%.
Do you think that's getting a bit of a kicking, though?
Yeah, my Iron Fist is getting a kick.
I wonder what. I know people are upset about them not casting an Asian guy, weren't they?
Yeah, I don't know what the actual complaint is apart from that.
Well, I don't get what the complaint is because isn't he a white dude anyway? The actual character.
Momentum and originality. I don't know. I kind of thought the TV stuff was a little bit overrated anyway. I kind of enjoyed the first Daredevil. Really enjoyed Jessica Jones, but don't really need to see it again.
I really
got bored during the second series of Daredevil, to be honest.
I really liked Luke Cage. I watched that recently.
Yeah. I haven't dragged myself way through it yet. I started it and I just, I'm sure I'll go back to it.
I think what I really liked about it was it's actually how layered the characters are. I think I really enjoyed. I say really enjoyed the characterizations of all the different characters that were nuanced. I thought it was actually quite well done in that regards. So I'll look forward to Iron Fist. Just looks like Kung Fu Batman, which is fine by me. So if it does that, then I'm fine. Okay. But I guess
if you're recovering from your rage, listeners, me defending the Matrix sequel, can I just restoke your fire by saying I fucking hated Lego Batman?
I thought you were going to go in a completely different direction. I thought you were going to say, can I just calm your mind to go fuck yourself? Like one of those things.
No, I'm not that rude. I'm not that rude to people. But Lego Batman, I thought had a stunning first 10 minutes, and then I couldn't wait for it to finish. I was so fucking bored with it.
Well, you like me.
One joke.
You like me weren't like that much of a fan of the Lego Movie, were you?
No, I wasn't. I thought it was a fucking mess.
But you didn't. You don't really like Lego.
It had great moments in it though.
Yeah,
there were bits of Lego Movie I really liked. And the Batman bits were funny, but he was all right as like one joke and a side character. They gave me his whole film, and I was just sick to death of it so far before the end.
What, the Lego Joker?
The Lego Movie the Lego Batman film.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't really like it that much, but I thought it had a stunning opening. But yeah, it fell apart. I really didn't like it at all.
Also, where was Zod in the Phantom Zone after being sent there?
Probably having tea with Peter O'Toole. Well, won't be tea, will it? It's Peter O'Toole.
Yeah.
I'm convinced.
Oh shit! Yeah.
The Phantom Zone being super.
Yeah, that's.
He looks so drunk in everything he's in that film.
That's a Supergirl reference there, isn't it?
Yeah. Wait, we keep getting asked when we're covering it. We're not.
So, should we call that a wrap?
Should we call that a wrap? Let's call it a panini.
Okay, fine. Let's call it a panini. Dave, where are you on social media?
You can find me at ThePastyKid1976 on Twitter.
Awesome. You can find me at Cinematronix, and you can find the podcast that myself and Dave and, of course, Becca does, Do You Expect to Talk, on that website, cinematronix.co.uk. Dave, thanks for joining us.
That's fine.
Thanks for coming on and being the prototype to the new reboot. How do you feel it went? How many?
Yeah, I think that'll edit down to something, a good couple of minutes.
We'll have a good couple of minutes.
I bared my soul. I gave honest opinion. I think it went okay. If you want that sort of show, but with a laser focus and less silliness, do check out Do You Expect Us to Talk?
Less silliness, you think?
No, not really.
No.
But if you want a truly shocking image in your head about Judi Dench's end just after death, check out the forthcoming Skyfall commentary.
Oh, who was it doing the?
Chris has to put. You got to put out, Chris. You got to put that thing out. It's on. It's already live on.
Oh yes, it's on YouTube. I've just not put it out because I want to keep the podcast in order. So we'll get returns out of the way, then I'll post it. But if it's on,
Right,
but if it's out on YouTube, it's available for people to listen. So I'm like, just leave it. Yeah. So, yeah. So thanks, Dave, and I'm sure you'll come on again at some point. If you can be bothered.
No, it's all right. I don't mind. It's filled an evening of quality chat.
Yes.
I didn't point out how much like Alan Partridge you sounded during the early exchanges.
Yes. I can't.
You'll hear it. You'll hear it in the edit. You'll just be, God, I really sound like Alan Partridge.
I find it hard not to say sort of like quality chat without sounding a little bit Partridge.
It was the constant, chat.
Yes. I'll have a chatathon.
Mind you, the last time I appeared at Cinematronix, you referred to me as your fellow podcaster.
Yes.
And I'm there thinking about chocolatier when you meant musketeer. Anyway, good night,
Good night, guys.